Hey, what's going on, family? Come on in the house. Come on in the house. Come on. Come on. Come on. Let's see. I'm trying to see how many I got. I got 70. Come on in here. Come on. Come on. Everybody. Let me take this off. I've learned that sometimes they don't like you to have this. Well, I don't know if they don't like you to have the seal of the water or the company just to be safe. Got my little water. There we go. All right. All right. Drinking my water. I hadn't drank my water today, Saint, so just pray for me. I have been asleep on the couch all day. I actually had to work this morning. Anybody knows I work in IT, so on call. Anybody knows what on call means, y'all will just pray for me. So, and got a call and had to get, hey, my ox is in the ditch, Saints. I had to go get it out. So I know some saints be like, if I had it, I wouldn't work. Well, pay my bills. I had people tell me, y'all, it is hilarious that well, if my job made me work, I would quit. Well, pay my bills. And got utilities, I got cable, I got cell phone. That's just the basics. Then my extras, who else gonna cover that? You know how saints are. You know how they are. They love to judge. But ox was in the ditch. But hopefully, I don't have to do it next Saturday. So, Zadok, if you're watching, I will be in your class on Saturday. So, with that being said, family, y'all, I have chilled. I have rested after the fact. I took a 2.5 hour nap. That blessed me. I needed it. And when I say I slept hard, you know how you sleep and it's light outside and then you wake up and it's dark? That was me today. I just woke up to I fell asleep to the day and woke up to the night. So I'm gonna be up all night, saints. So just pray for me. I meant for like a quick 30-minute nap. That was the goal and that was the plan. That's what I'm gonna do about a 30-minute nap. That 30-minute nap turned into a 2.5 hour nap. So pray for me that the Lord will make me the most high will make me go to sleep tonight. Pray for me. But I want to tell y'all, I I had a long conversation. Anybody that knows Sister ShanT knows that she on point. She gonna give you the Greek, the Hebrew, the Spanish, the Latin, the Portuguese. She gonna give you every word and break it down in so many different languages to the point you just be like, that's what it means. Bubblegum is not bubblegum. When she gets done breaking it down, you're gonna figure out that it's chocolate. I'm just joking. She in the back room laughing. I want to make her laugh today. When she gets done breaking a word down, you're gonna know the ingredient in it. You're gonna know if it's bad for your health, if it's gonna make your teeth fall out. That's how good she is. She can break a word down to a fraction. That's what I mean. And I mean it with all love. But y'all know my sister ShanT, you give her words, say break it down. What does it mean in Hebrew? I still don't know how to say my name in Hebrew. We're gonna try that again. But I'm country. But I'm bringing her on because we had a good conversation about submission. Hmm. Submission. Them camps and some of these mores and people in the community love to abuse what submission is. I want to say this. They want to almost, those who abuse the word submission wants to put a new yoke on your neck. Pretty much. They make being a wife slavery. They make being marriage, you are my slave master and I'm your slave, literally. I've had men to tell me in conversations that I've been invited to talk with them on that when I give my point, be quiet, the men are talking. You know what I do? I hang up in their face. Because my point, for some reason, doesn't mean anything. So, but they forget that Paul, the Apostle Paul, had women around him. He chose Phoebe as a deacon. Apostle Jonah was a woman. People want to say that she wasn't, but she was a woman. Then we want to also talk about Huldah. When they needed to understand the law, they went to Huldah. They want to forget about her. She had a husband. And you got to can't forget about Deborah. She was a judge, righteous judge. But they say, y'all always want to bring them up. No, you want to bring up submission. Submission is women are important in the Bible. And everybody knows I'm a firm believer in understanding that a woman is supposed to submit to her husband. But I'm bringing a ShanT on so we can talk about what that really means. It's not to be a doormat. It's not to be someone's slave, but submission should be something done easy and understandable. Everybody has to submit to someone. Let's talk about that too as well. Um, you, this conversation is needed. That's all I gotta say. So I may have some men up in here that may, and I'm gonna have some women too, that may come in here and they may not like what's gonna be discussed. But I will say this: open your ears and hear this. Allow your spirit to hear this and grow. Um, Again, marriage is never a burden. It should be something that you love to do. Um, so I'm gonna bring a ShanT in here. I'm gonna shut up for now, and I'm gonna bring her on in here. And also, I have Sheikah. Sheikah's gonna be engaged in the conversation as well. And I hope this is gonna be a good conversation and a good lesson because I really wanted the community to really hear what the word submission means. So let me be quiet and bring my people in. My guest. Here we go. Sheikah, what's going on, sister?
You call me Sheikah?
No, I mean Shonda. Oh my God. I
It's all good.
I'm sorry, ShanT. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
you all good. You all good. I know who you was talking about because my face is up here. My likeness is up here. So
Look, I'm sitting here trying to figure out why I got hot all of a sudden. So I'm like, do I have the heat on? But I'm sorry.
it's
What's
all
up?
good.
What's
Uh,
up?
Sister E, I appreciate you having me on your channel. It's a humbling blessing to be on, to be able to edify the people, to build and also entertain, liberate, and do this closing out Shabbat. Thank you so much. I want to say shalom to the people listening right now, and to the people who are going to join in and listen later. I want to say shalom l'kol mishpachai v'chabarim. Thank you. Kol tehelim kol kabod v'hatiferet le Yahweh Abinu Eloheinu. All praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh, our Father, our deity, our power, our Elohim. Thank you so much. Hey, this is going to be jam packed. Everything that I present, everything that I say, I'm going to be showing direct sources, direct references. You can go back and look this information up yourself. As Sister E asks, let the Spirit guide you and bring you to a sound conclusion. This is about harmonious balance. Harmonious balance. Enough with the gender wars. We are supposed to be coming together in love and in unity. And I want to help do that as the most Yahweh allows me. Thank you so much, E. I'll let you continue with your introductions.
You're good. Hey, Sheikah, how are you?
Shalom, y'all. I'm doing okay. Getting over some allergies. I don't know what's going on in Dallas. We all got allergies and the asthma's kicking up. So I don't know. But I'm glad to be here. This is a topic that is dear to my heart. I see so many, have a misunderstanding about this word and what it looks like, and most really can't articulate what this looks like. And it's just, and I ask because I'm just that person who's going to say, so what do you mean by this? And most people don't even know what they're saying. And then we've seen it be abused to where sisters are being harmed. And so I'm glad that you're bringing this to the forefront.
Correct. So I want everybody to like and share. These are the moments on my channel. I want to see the numbers go up to 200. The sad part is if I was doing something crazy and arguing, it would be 200 strong in here. But we're doing something that's an important lesson that people need to learn and need to hear. That's when you start seeing they don't want they don't want the meat. It's like when you want to give them the meat, they don't want to be there. And I think this is a meat worthy teaching. This is what I would call the meat. Um, So share, go find some of these people, y'all. Grab them and say, come on here and listen to this. Because this is important. Again, I want to see these numbers go up because this is an important lesson. This is a life lesson. Not just a biblical, this is a biblical lesson that teaches you how to treat your wife, your soon to be wife, your significant other. And it also allows a woman to understand the true essence of what submission means. So that when you do decide to marry someone, you will know what characteristics you want to see in him. And that's in how he treats you. We see so many women in our community abuse, and not within our community, because even in the Christian church, what we consider the non, I'm gonna start saying it because we are all believers. The non Hellenized, Gentile, I'm gonna get all types of names, church, because they abuse it as well. Because I've heard pastors say that, a woman needs to be quiet. And you sit there and you say, wait, but I'm the same one that's teaching your son, I'm teaching your daughter. So their first teacher is most cases the mother. So my voice is not important. Okay, move on. But I've seen men do this, and it's got to stop. It's got to stop because we are still the daughters of Zion, and the Most High loves the daughters of Zion. So, with all that being said, I'm going to hand it over to my sister ShanT and let her get started. I'm gonna let you have free reign, however you want me to do it. I got you, sis. But I want everybody to start bringing people in here. Start sending text. Say, hey, y'all, come in here because this is a good teaching right here. So I'll let you have it from here, sis.
This is a blessing to have sisters come on and edify and teach and build and talk and converse.
Yeah.
It's said a lot of times that we can't. Of course, we can, certain ones. Again, I want to thank Sister E. So let's get to it, y'all. This is going to be sort of interactive. I don't want to hold you too long. However, for those who know me, know I'm going to try to be as thorough as possible. Please take everything I share, I show back to the Most High in prayer and ask the Spirit to lead and guide you to a sound conclusion. All right. This is about the first century CE definition of the word submission, right? We're all coming back into the walk. Well, not actually coming back into the walk. We're actually going more in depth into the walk past what our denominational teachings have imparted to us, correct? And we've all been taught different doctrines, different dogmas, different traditions, correct? And so when I came into this thing solid 2013, I didn't really hear this as much until I started looking at the YouTubes and things of that nature. I came in by way of Hebrew roots to the walk, Hebrew roots. And then I started seeing the camps and other people. And I am legally married. I've been legally married for 5 years, been with my husband for a total of 15. And one of these things I hear about marriage is, well, only the woman submits. The man doesn't have to submit, or the husband doesn't have to submit. I hear that often. And I and my husband's marriage dynamic, and I saw that we don't even mention the word submit unless we hear somebody on social media talking about it, right? We actually do for one another because we love one another.
Yeah.
And this came about not only because of the social media. However, I had started doing some more intricate studies on Paul's letters. And we're going to talk about that right now. We're going to talk about Paul's letters, how they get misconstrued.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to know, besides what Sister Sheikah said, what Sister E said about the definitions of submission that they have heard or come across, right? In the chat, may y'all share some of the definitions of what you have been told submission means. We're gonna give y'all a few minutes, maybe about 2 or 3 minutes to answer. I want to get y'all take. What do you come across as a definition of submission? Got to put those head handkerchiefs on for the super bruise, right? They're gonna give me today. We're gonna talk about that. Errol Spike said there's a submission is a two-way street. Blessings to everyone. Blessings to everyone. Let's see. Anybody want to take a shot, a stab at what the okay? So do whatever he says. Do whatever the husband says. Sister, what's that? Sister Shirley said, do whatever he says, and you can't say no, right? Um, Agreement. Okay. Somebody said submission. They've seen it mean agreement. Talisha Yah says obeying your husband. That's what's taught. Okay. Is it ever taught about bow down, do what you're told? Bow down and do what you're told. So shut up, do what you're told, obey me. I get to make all the final choices and decisions, right? We get to, our opinions are not heard, right? As women or wives, our opinions are not heard. That's what we heard the definition of submission means, correct? All right, well, feast your eyes on this. Individual personalities will remain intact. Submit to the husband as he submits to the Most High. I've definitely heard that as well. Definitely heard that as well. All right. So, Sister E, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share my screen for a quick few here
Do this.
and run down.
I've heard people say this.
Yeah. Call your husband master or Lord. Right. Yeah. When Sarah referred to Abraham as Adoni, she was saying my husband, but she did not directly call and say, when she did not directly say to him, hey, Adoni. She was just describing who he was. That's her husband. So Adoni, it's like what we would use in our vernacular today when we say sir, S-I-R. All right. So with that being said, let me share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see. Share the screen. I think this is screen 2. Let's see.
Like I said, y'all keep sharing this. I want people to see this. Again, like I said, if I was in here having an argument amongst people, I ain't gonna say argument, but a heated conversation, the numbers would skyrocket to 200. I need the same love when it comes to a good teaching, an important teaching. So y'all get these folks in here. I'm not having Fight Club today. It's Teach Club. I'm just playing.
Right, Teach Club.
Fight Club today.
All right.
Here we go. You ready? There's nothing coming.
Yep, I should be here in just a second. It might be myself moving super slow.
Okay, you're good.
All right. Can you see that? What looks like the Greek writing?
Yep.
You can see it. All right. So I can't see you guys right now, but this is good old Ephesians chapter 5, right? It looks kind of weird because this is from the Greek. I'm going to, this is actually from a book. I'll show it after I share the screen here. Actually, let's do this. Let's stop sharing for a quick moment. And what I'm sharing is this: the text of the earliest New Testament Greek manuscripts, new and complete transcriptions with photographs edited by Philip Comfort and David Barrett. This is what I'm going to be showing real quick. Now, this is the early papyri. I'm showing the manuscript from the early papyri, right? And P46 is what I'm showing. It was pretty much found and dated 2nd century CE. 2nd century CE. All right. So mind you, this is a pretty penny source. I had to save up for this, but after this presentation, if you guys want this slideshow of the PDF I'm putting up, by all means, I can give it to you. My email is duckandodge1@gmail.com, duckndodge1@gmail.com. All right, so let me share my screen again. We're gonna do a little bit of reading in the Greek. So bear with me, all right? And I just want to show you guys something and try to get through this. Uh, Try to get through this as much as possible, right? All right. All right. So, Sister E and Sheik, can you see the Greek writing there?
Yeah, push it over a little
So,
bit more.
yep, got you right there. Okay. So this is Ephesians. I've highlighted verses 21, 22, and 24 of chapter 5. I want you to pay attention to something, right? So I'll tell you the Greek alphabet. Okay. So verse 21 in the ESV, uh, I don't know if in the ESV it might be there or might not. But Sister E
What's
or
up?
Shika, can you read to me any version that you want? Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21,
All right. Now I gotta go find my Bible.
and
Ain't
and
it?
and and 22. Yeah, and 22. So yeah, read Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 and 22 in your favorite version to read from.
Okay, I had to get. Something told me to keep my Bible right here. Oh, you want to read?
Yeah.
You want to read?
No, you go ahead and read it, and then I'm going to read this Greek here.
Okay, hold on.
Hmm.
Now I'm getting to the verse. One
Because
second.
this is the first place people go to when they want to press their argument about wives submit, right? With the definitions that some of our listeners here in the chat, they said they heard and are familiar with, right? So we haven't
So what?
got to the first century CE definition yet, but we will. So Ephesians chapter 5, read verse 21 and 22.
21. Sorry. Yeah, I move a little slow. Bear
You're
with
fine.
me.
You're fine.
Okay, so it says, okay, okay, 21. Ephesians chapter 5, verses 21 and 22. Submitting to one's wives, what is it? Submitting to one another in the fear of Christ.
Pause.
Wives, okay.
Pause. Okay, say that again.
Submitting to one another in the fear of Christ.
Okay, so when she said submitting one to another in the fear of Christ, so if she said submitting, that's this word here. I'm highlighting the first word. That's hypotassimenoi. Hippo hypotassimenoi. Leis in phobu. Phobo crew. So that's like a shortened version of for God, right? It should be
Mhm.
Theo. So hypotassimenoi alilis in phobo God. It pretty much God, Theos. So we're gonna actually focus today on this word hypotassimenoi, right? So that is your participle. In our participle in grammar means like in our English it would have the word ing on it. So that's why we have submitting instead of submit. And then alilois, this word right here, this is one to another. That's actually one to another. It means one to another. And then this word right here is in, and this word right here, it's phobo, right? I can say all the letters. This is a phi, omicron, beta, omega, right? But we're gonna focus on this word, this long word right here. So it's epsilon. It looks like a U, and then the next letter looks like the letter that starts for the word pi, right? So it's a P. Then you have omicron. Then you have a tau. Then you have an alpha, and then you have two sigmas. Then you have an omicron. Then you have a mu. Then you have an eta. No, excuse me, not eta. You have an epsilon, and then you have a nu, looks like a V, and then you have an omicron and an iota. Now, this word right here is actually going to change endings right here. So minoi is actually going to the actual base form of it is hypotasso. Hipotasso. So when you say menoi, that's changing it to the participle, which in our English vernacular has the ing on the end. Okay. So it says submitting hipotasso menoi alilois one to another in bobo, in the fear of God. He ro ipsilon. All right. Read verse 22 for me, Sister E.
I had to change versions. It was American Standard and what was it, Christian Standard. Sometimes the wording is interesting. So,
Oh, it
yeah,
don't matter.
I'm okay. So
Go
now
ahead.
I'm reading the KJV. So,
Ah.
Ephesians 5:22. I'm reading now.
Mm-hmm.
Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto the Lord.
All right. So read that one more time, just a little bit slower.
Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord.
Okay, so you see this big word that started out with verse 21 right here? Well, I'm circling hypotassomenoi, and I said the basis is hypotasso. That word is the word translated submitting up here, right? Now, in verse 22, as Sister E read in word submit, she read submit, right? So shouldn't we see something that looks like this word here in verse 22, highlighted in green here? Take a look at it, Sister E and Sister Shika. Right? Look at this line I highlighted for verse 22 in green. Do you see
Yeah,
this big
the
word
word
that started off verse 22 in verse 21? Do you see that in verse 22?
no, I
No.
don't. The words are different.
Oh, wait a minute. You don't see that there?
No, I'm about to go over to
Nope.
my book right on there. I'm like, oh,
Oh, okay. So ding ding ding. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
ah,
This is why it's good to go.
ah.
This is why it's good to go back and examine the manuscripts, the papyri, right? Examine the codexes that the text was translated from, right? And when people want to go to Ephesians 5 and verse 22, they take you here to say, why submit? But the word is not even there in verse 22, right? Now, I know some people are going to jump the gun and say, well, it's over in another book and chapter and verse. We'll get there, all right? So it says, wives, a gonekis, tois idiois, andrasin os toko. So pretty much the wives. So this is a definite article here. It was the alpha and the iota. The wives to their own or one's own husbands as to the Lord. So that's shortened. The kappa and the omega, they shorten that. They usually don't want to say God. They don't want to spell out Theo sometimes in here. They don't want to spell out Christ a lot. They don't want to spell out Lord, um, as you can understand tradition, right? So his wives, all the wives also to their own husbands as to the Lord, right? So in verse 21, a lot of people want to skip that verse and then just go right on over to verse 22 to prove their point. However, in verse 21 in Ephesians 5, it says submitting one to another in fear. That's reverence of God, right? God, Yahweh, Yahuwah, however you want to pronounce it, right? We're supposed to be submitting one to another, but we're going to actually define what that word is, right? Now, the word in verse 24, we should see it now, right? So in verse 24, I have it highlighted here. Verse 24, could you read that in the KJV, Sister E? Ephesians 5 and verse 24.
5 and 24. Hold on. Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
24. 5 and 24. 5 and 24. So I don't forget. All right. 5 and 24. Therefore, now I'm reading Ephesians 5 and 24 KJV. It says, therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be to their own husbands in everything.
Gotcha. All right. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with this passage, and this is absolutely non-misogynistic, and we're going to show that tonight. All right. So It says, al hati he ecclesia hypotasite, right? So you see in verse 21, the word, you can see the word is the same, right? Hypotasemenoi. And then in verse 24, I pronounced it as hypotasite. That's because there's different actions, fluctuations going on with the word. So al hatihi ecclesia hypotasite to God, right? God or Christ, to Christ, right? Hutos que guneki stois andrasin in panti. So pretty much, moreover, because the assembly, right? The assembly submits, it submit for itself, right? It submit does something for itself, and I'll tell you why I translated it like that. Submits for its own self to Christ, right? To Christ, um, in this manner, also, also the wives to the husbands, to the to the husbands, andrasin in panti, all right. So, um, this word here, hypotasso, the word hypotasso, what I say, ipsilon, p, omicron, here down here, it's tau, alpha, two sigmas, an epsilon, a tau, an alpha, and a iota. That the word here in this verse is what you call a present middle indicative. In the Greek grammar, it's called a present middle indicative, and I'll share what that means just a little while. Right now, so in Ephesians verse 5 and 22 in the original papyri that the texts are actually written from, the word submit is not in verse 22. Yes, it's in verse 24. But we're going to see why the wives were even addressed first and foremost, right? We're going to see why. This is so exciting. This is so exciting to me. Good grief. All right. What do I want to pull up next? Colossians. Now, let's see. Sister E and Sheik, can you see what I have here? Is it big enough of the highlighted in orange there, verse 18? This is Colossians chapter 3. Can you see that? Do I need to make it bigger?
You can make it a little bit bigger, just a little bit.
Okay, let's see if I can let me zoom in.
Yeah, let me ask the audience, how does it look
Yeah.
to y'all? Is it good enough, or do we need to one bigger, two? It's fine. One doesn't need. Well, it's bigger now, so we're good.
Good.
Just scroll up a little bit more.
Yep. Yeah, I'm trying to widen my screen up and see. My computer is like, oh, we don't like you tonight. We know you're doing a presentation, and we're gonna act the fool, ShanT. All right. Let's see. Hold on. See, now it's like it says not responding. Like, okay, we'll give it some time. So the present, yeah, the present middle indicative. We're gonna get to that, but I do want to say that Colossians 3, verse 18. That's what we're gonna look at when this like decides to not act up, right?
Okay.
It was working beautifully earlier.
Just yeah, well, you and IT. I ain't gotta tell you to do nothing. You know what to do. I just
Oh
thought
yeah.
about it. Say back, I'll go back, and I was like, wait, hold on. No. All right. So Colossians 3. Do you want me to read it or you want me to
Yeah.
wait?
I'm sorry. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. Colossians 3, 18 KJV.
Mm-hmm.
Wives, wives, chapter 18 now. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husband, your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. Again, I'm gonna read it one more time because I got a little off with those words. Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord. You want me to read 19?
Nope, that's good.
Okay.
Okay, so I think I got it together. I think okay, cool. Now let's share the screen again. Let's move it back over here. Let's move it back over. All right.
Hold on, one second. I'm coming.
Okay, cool. So Sister E read in the KJV. It says, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, or to your husbands, as it is what."
Give me something to drink. Sorry.
Oh,
Okay,
you
so it
over
says,
there? You over there? Get some water. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay, no, I'm back. I'm back.
Okay.
Wives, submit yourselves unto
Uh
your
huh.
own husbands, as it is fit in the Lord.
Okay. So, um, the one's own, the word for one's own is not even in verse 18 for Colossians chapter 3, right? So it just says agonakis. So the wives, hypotasis thee, right? You see the fluctuation or different morphology in how the word looks, right? Hypotasso. That's the main basis of the word hypotasso, but you see it changing the forms, right? So gunekis, wives, submit yourselves to husbands as is fitting in the Lord. So egonikis hypotasis thi tois andrasin os anikin en ko, right? Or in the Lord. So hypotasis thi, right? So that's the present middle imperative. Present middle imperative. So in Ephesians 5, I said the word there was in the present middle indicative. Well, in here, in Colossians chapter 3, verse 18, the word is there. It's telling the wives to submit to the husbands, right? It doesn't say one's own husband, but it says to the husband. So the word idiois, meaning one's own, is not here. Hypotasis thi is in the present middle imperative. All right. So let's look at I think I put it here. Let's look at what I'm gonna tell you guys what these things mean. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Let me see. I should have put that picture in there. What I wanted to say about imperative. Okay, so watch this. So let's see. Let's put it back on here. Let me show you something about a word that's in its imperative, right? So a commandment. A commandment is not necessarily in the imperative, right? An imperative word is volitional, voluntary. Volitional means voluntary. Woo! I'm getting excited. An imperative is volitional. Not all commands are imperatives, and not all imperatives are commands. When somebody says come in, right, called by a parent whose children are playing outside, that's a command, right? So if children are outside playing, the parent says, come in, that's a command. However, but when addressing a friend at the door, if a parent has a friend coming over at the door, right, it's an invitation. When they say come in, right, somebody rings the bell at the door, and you say come in, that's an invitation, right? In the Lord's Prayer, in Matthew chapter 6, in the Lord's Prayer, we say, give us our bread. Now, that's an imperative when you say give, right? But watch this. Give us our bread. That's an imperative. However, addressed to a servant, this would be a command. To a baker, a request, and to the Most High Yahweh, it's a prayer. This is imperatives, right? There is no grammatical difference in the writing, so to speak, and whether an imperative is a command, a suggestion, an invitation, or a plea, sometimes requires subjective judgment, right? So that's an imperative. So hypotasis. What did I say here? This is the present middle imperative, and an imperative is volitional, voluntary, voluntary, right? This is very important. So we're going to look further at the word, what's translated from the Greek to mean submit in the English. All right. So let's scroll down here. Let me that's what gets it to not respond, Sister E. The 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 zooming in and the zooming out, that's what gets it to not respond. Okay, so let's do this. These are small. I know this lettering is small. You see where I have this word here? It looks Greek, of course. I have it highlighted in pink. Do you see that, or do I need to make it bigger?
Yeah, I'm
Can
used
you
to
hear me?
see.
Say that again, Sheik.
She's on mute, but
Oh,
I
okay.
can see it should be a little bit bigger though.
You want to make it a bigger? Okay, let's see. So,
One, if it needs to be bigger. Two, if it's good enough.
okay,
I think you're good, but I mean, can you zoom
let's
in
put it to
just a little?
200.
Okay, you
Yeah,
want to
I
zoom
put
in
it
a
to
little.
200.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me know if they can see it now, if I need to make it bigger.
Okay. We good. I think.
We
It's
good?
good.
Okay. All right. So I have this word here. It's hippo. Hippo. This is in highlighted in pink here. So this apostrophe in front of what looks like the letter Y, that's called a rough breathing mark. So you would pronounce it as right. So when you say the word hypocrite, this is actually the preposition that begins the word hypocrite. Hippo. So that's a rough breathing mark. So you would pronounce it as, and then the Y, it looks like a Y, right? But it's actually an epsilon. And then the next letter is a P, and then the next letter is omicron, hippo. So it's a preposition, right? So hippotasso is a conglomerate of hippo and tasso. We're going to look at the definitions of hippo and tasso, what the Greek word is that translators say it means submit, right? So we're just going to look at just brief. You don't have to see all of this, but the letter A, right, says with the genitive. Genitive means something possessive, like of or from, right? Says of a place, it means from under, or of rescuing from under another's power. Um, the second definition here with the genitive, it means under or beneath. So it's pretty much talking about some sort of position, right? Under or beneath. Um, let's actually go up here to the rest of it. Okay, there we go. Um, okay, did I go too far? Or maybe I did.
Oh,
Nope.
you good. Take your
Oh,
time.
okay. Nope, we're good. We're good. Okay, let's go to B. Because I only want to read a few of these. So B with the dative. The dative in the Greek means like to in or with. In our English vernacular, we would say to study, or somebody's in the kitchen, or somebody's walking with somebody. So into or with, that's what you call your dative, right? So in that case, it means a place or position, right? A place or position. Um, let's see, the place or position, if somebody's under somebody's power or subdued under, right? And one more, I think, with the accusative. The accusative in Greek, that would be the object of the sentence. So in the Greek, the accusative would be the object of the sentence, right? And see, this is good to learn this grammar stuff, right? All right, so with the accusative here, see, you have to see that hand here. With the accusative of place, it means towards and under, right? And then they're giving examples, right? So towards or under, right? So it's pretty much some sort of position. So you're either by something or under or even below, right? You're by something, you're under something, or you're below. So you're by or you're with. By or you're with, right? Right? Okay. Now, let's look at tasso next. So remember I said that hypotasso, 2 words. So you could say by, with, or under. This is called semantic range we're looking at, right? Semantic range, meaning when you look, context gives you what actual definition can be used when you see a word to be translated, right? So here I have tasso. Now this is the kicker. I think this is the kicker, right? I think this is the absolute kicker. Hypotasso, right? So it's hippo with the preposition hippo, right? And then tasso. All right, so these are the examples here. I'm going to read a little bit, right? But not too much. But watch this hand here. I'm going to start. To arrange. I'm going to go slow. To arrange. Put in order. Especially to draw up in order of battle. To form, array, marshal, both of troops and ships. Let me say that again. Tasso, to arrange, put in order, especially to draw up in order of battle, to form, array, marshal, both of troops and ships. Right? You can also you draw up somebody in order to battle, in order to go out to battle. You put in somebody like the military. This is a military term, right? Look at this word right here in the middle. Remember I was saying hypotasso was in the present middle indicative in Ephesians 5 in verse 24, and it's in the imperative, it's in the middle imperative in Colossians chapter 3, verse 18. Pay attention to this. So in the middle, right, it means to fall in, form in order of battle, to post, station. Watch this hand right here. To serve among the infantry. Look at this. Roman numeral 2. Let's go down some. Let's go down some more. Roman numeral 2. Let me go down some more here. Okay, so back up here to Roman numeral 2. To appoint to any service, military or civil. So to point somebody to a service, military or civil, to a service or task, right? So this is a military term. Hypotasso, it's a military term. So if we actually are translating from first century CE definitions, right? And I'm going to show you where I got this definition from. This word means to array yourself in battle with, to array yourself for battle with, to order or form yourself or array yourself in a form ready to go to battle for or with. So when you go to Colossians 3, right? When you go to Colossians 3, let's just scooch back up to it. This is the actual translation. E gunikis hypotasis tois andrasin os anikin inko, or in that would be the Lord, right? So wives, array yourself in a form like you're in the military, right? To go to battle for and with your husbands, as is fitting in the Lord.
Yep.
Now let me stop the screen share for a minute.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna mute myself because my dog decides to eat right when you.
Oh, you're fine. Did that sound? Oh, did that sound like anything of what anyone heard someone say submit means when they go to Ephesians 5 or Colossians 3?
No, it does not. Submission, from what you just said, and again, I apologize for the back noise. She decides to go and go to her bowl now. But submission seems like it's a partnership. Like we're working together for the family. We're working together. It's not a thing of even though there are ranks in the military. And again, the men, I know the men right here about to just snatch their teeth out. Nobody that a woman is trying to overrank you, but in it, you're working together.
You're going to battle together.
Yep.
Now, this is crazy that Paul is using this language, because we're going to talk about something that went on in the first century CE in these Roman colonial lands. When I say Roman colonial lands, that means modern day Turkey. It means Galatia, Corinth, Ephesus, Colossae, Rome, right? These cities were governed by Roman land laws. They had to follow Caesar's land laws. And at the time that Paul was in these lands, Gaius Octavianus Caesar, that was the Caesar at the time. That was the emperor at the time. Gaius Octavianus Julius Caesar, that was the emperor at the time. And he was pretty much the father, the savior, or the son of God, so to speak, over the Roman colonial lands. So when it says wives submit, it doesn't mean the English version that we've been taught it means. It means wives voluntarily. Remember when I said present middle imperative, right? And when something's in the imperative, it's volitional. And in the middle voice, we're also going to see something in the Greek that also says when you're doing something for the benefit of yourself, you're doing something for yourself, right? So it says, wives, voluntarily array yourself in a combat form to go to battle by, with, and for your husband. Okay, now let me continue. So let's go back to sharing the screen. We gonna give Sister E a break, and she can go back to the doggy dog who making all the. I understand.
She gone now. She's gone. She
Oh,
good.
she go. That's how it is. They like, you're not paying me no attention. You're not giving me no love. This is not right.
She mad. She gone in the other room now. She done. Gone in
All
the other.
right. So let me show y'all something here, and I'm trying to follow my notes here. Let me see. Let's see here. So we saw that to arrange yourself, voluntarily arrange yourself in order of the battle array form, right? So you're going to you're voluntarily getting yourself together to go to battle by, with, and for your husband, right? All right. So let's see. I should have pulled up these pages here. Otherwise, oh, and oh, I forgot. I forgot. I did want to show something else. See, real quick, this word, if the word, if the word meant wives obey your husbands, right, in all things. If it meant obey, it would be the word hippokuo, hippokuo, hippoakuo. And so this is the word akuo. Akuo would be equivalent to the Hebrew word shema. Shema means hear and obey. So akuo in the Greek, it would mean to give ear to. It would mean give ear to, pretty much hear, heed, and obey. Right? Hear, heed, and obey. Akuo. Right? I'm not going to spend too much time on that because I got some things to read. Right? So let's see. Let's see here. Oh, this is the kicker. Oh, this is the kicker. Actually, let me let me minimize this just a little bit. Let me zoom out of this right here. The word head in First Corinthians, the word head in First Corinthians chapter 11. I want to talk about this real quick because this gets misconstrued a lot. Now, I'm not too hard pressed about people's feelings when it comes to the text and what words at the first century CE Greek definitions of words. That's what I'm looking at. I usually try to take my feelings, emotions out of this thing when I'm actually trying to seek and get genuine responses from the Most High. All right. We're going to give this some time to refresh. Sheikah, you got anything to say until this thing refreshes real quick? Anything to add or ask real quick?
Well, I think it's great that you brought out that definition. Go to war with and for and beside your husband, because I had posted in my group the article with Abigail, and Abigail, it was called Abigail, the submissive wife. And most people would not think of Abigail as a submissive wife, but she actually
Mm,
was, because she was maintaining the interest of her husband. And so, I mean, she was even praised by David for doing such a thing of to making sure that not only her husband, but her husband, her servants, her household was maintained. And so, I mean, this is true alignment. I was on Clubhouse, and I don't like Clubhouse like that, because there are some unqualified speakers on there, but he did speak to this rightly in saying that you align with your husband. The thing that I would say is that in how I am raising my child is that to be organically herself, and along her own journey she will find someone to align with, you know. But it's a two-way street. um My husband was the one who told me, "You're going to get this job. You're going to get it. Nobody else is going to get it. This is how." So he had to align with me at a certain time too. So it goes back and forth. So I just want.
But you know what?
Absolutely.
She said something made a lot of sense. So ask yourself this question, and I'm going back to Holden. When when they went to Holden, ask her about the book of the law, do you realize her husband possibly was there aligning with her as she was doing what she was doing? Never once
Mhm.
in you and we wasn't there, but it was obvious that her husband was very supportive of what she did. Because actually, based off of some of the way some of these guys act, they should have went to Holden's husband and
Hmm.
then talk to her, because a man ain't supposed to talk to another man and consult another. I mean, a man is not supposed to be talking to another woman or consulting a woman when it comes to the word of God or when it comes to the law. And they went straight to Holden and had the conversation with Holden. So if we have
Mhm.
that much misogynist mindset, the Bible should do the same thing. It should have been them going to Holden's husband asking him what is in the book of the law. And that's all I
Yep.
say.
Yep. Absolutely. So, carefully, carefully. This is where I have ink.
You
This is
breaking up.
the okay. Let me.
Now
I'm
you
gonna
better.
keep talking. I'm better now. Okay. So, carefully, carefully or kefale, how some people pronounce it. Correct. I have it highlighted here in pink, and I'm gonna stop screen sharing just for a bit after I share this because I want to show the source from where I'm getting these first century CE definitions from. When I look at the Greek New Testament, I go to a specific source that gives me definitions of words stemming from 1000 BCE to about 600 CE. And we know that the New Testament or the Brit Hadashah was written when? Pretty much first century CE, between the time of 1 CE to about 100 CE, correct? So I'm looking at a source that gives the actual definitions for these words at that time frame, first century CE. So kephale or kefale, right? So we have kappa, epsilon, phi, alpha, and then lambda, and then eta, right? All right. So watch this. When we go to definitions, well, when people want to bring up a point when they go to First Corinthians 11, they say head means leader, ruler, or authority. Right off top, right off top. And some people are so dismissive of the actual natural first definition of the word head of man or beast. Head of man or beast. What's head of man or beast? Something that sits on top of the body. This is our body, right? Our body is our torso, legs, arms, stomach, intestines, right, feet, body. They skip right over that meaning of head and want to go to, oh, it means leader, ruler, or authority. Well, watch this. This is first century CE definition of what's translated as head, H-E-A-D, kephale. Kephale means the head of man as on the top of the body, right? Right? Here we got some examples on the head, from head to foot, right? Look at this, number 2, the head. Put for the whole person, right? The head. If somebody's decapitated, right, that means they don't have the head, and it's hard. Like if they were decapitated and detectives are trying to identify the person, they're like, wait a minute, it's going to be kind of hard to identify the person because the face is on the head that pretty much identifies who that person is, right? Right. Um, the head put for the whole person, right? Let's look at number 3 example, the head. For example, the life. Oh my goodness, the life. Ah, example, setting their heads on the cast, right? Now, number 2, Roman numeral 2. Roman numeral 2. generally a head of garlic, a head of garlic, right? The top or brim of a vessel, the coping of a wall, and also the head or source of a river. And the metaphor is like the crown, completion of a thing. This is the entire definition of kephali, which is translated head in 1 Corinthians chapter 11. There is not here where it says leader, ruler, or authority. If Paul wanted to use the word for ruler or authority or even leader, he would have used probably the word exousia or arche. He would have used the word exousia or arche if he wanted to define someone as the leader, ruler, or authority. So kephali or head here, 1 Corinthians 11, and I'm going somewhere with this. What? It meant the head or source of a river, and it meant the head on the literal head that sits at the top, the height of a body. This is what it means to be supreme. When it says this head is in the supreme position, that means it's at the top, the height. The top or the height. So that's what head means in 1st century CE, New Testament. Kephali or kephale. Right? Now I want to read something to you guys when I was talking about present middle indicative and present middle imperative when I talked about Greek grammar. Right? When you have something in the middle voice, we're going to see what it is. So if a verb is in the active, then the subject does the action of the verb. If the verb is in the passive, then the subject receives the action of the verb. The classical definition of the middle voice is that the action of a verb in the middle voice in some ways affects the subject. So this source is calling that the self-interest nuance of the middle. So it's not necessarily the reflexive idea. If the subject of the verb performs an action to itself, Greek usually requires the reflexive pronoun iautu. That means himself, herself, themselves, right? But rather in the middle voice, the subject does the action of the verb to the direct object, and yet the action of the verb in some way affects the subject. So when this woman or this wife is saying, when she's asked to, or when she's asked to voluntarily array herself in form to go to battle by, with, and for her husband, it affects her. She's doing something for her own benefit. Voluntarily, though. The middle is voluntary. Right? So right here it says most middle paradigms or charts, right, or models translate the middle as when you say liome. When you say liome, oh no. Yeah, when you say liome, that means we loose for ourselves. Right? We say liome. Oh no. Liome. I lose for myself. Liome. Sorry. So when you say I lose for myself, that's liome. I lose for myself. You're doing something for the benefit. The subject is doing something for the benefit of themselves. Voluntarily. You do something for yourself. Right? I just wanted to show that. Real quick, this is from Gnascus. Actually here, this source that I got this from, where it says classical meaning of the middle. This is a grammar book that I have from, it's called Basics of Biblical Greek by William D. Mounts. That's what that is. I'm going to share something, then I'm going to stop screen sharing here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Greek verb system, right? So in Greek, you got categories of grammar in the verbs, right? So remember when I was talking about present, middle, indicative, and present, middle, imperative, right? So Greek has the Greek verb has 5 grammatical categories. Person means first, second, or third, right? He, she, or it. The third person is he, she, or it. First person is I. Second person is you, right? The number is singular or plural. You know, something's in the singular, something's in the plural. And now, the voice. Something could be in the active, the passive, or the middle. And we're going to look at what active, passive, and middle means in Greek, right? So the voice. And the tense. If something's happening in the present or the future or the imperfect or the aorist, like an action that's like already done in the past or whatever, perfect and pluperfect. And then the mood, indicative, subjunctive, imperative, optative. So we're gonna look at voice, tense, and mood a little bit more, right? Because I was talking about what hypotasso in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 24 is in the present, middle, indicative. So it's in the present tense, and the voice is middle, and the mood is indicative, right? And then in Colossians chapter 3, verse 18, I said it's the present middle imperative, right? So the tense is present, and then the voice is middle. When you're doing something, the middle, you're doing something volitional for your benefit. And then the mood is what? Imperative, right? So we're going to look at that. So just real quick to focus on the middle, the voice. The voice determines in what manner the subject performs the action. So the subject is the person doing the action, right? So in the middle here, when something's in the middle voice, the subject performs the action upon himself or for his benefit. I am killing, they use the word kill. I don't like that, but it says I'm killing myself, or I'm killing for my own, whatever, right? But you're doing something, you're doing the action upon yourself. You're voluntarily doing the action upon yourself for your own benefit, right? In the tense. So the tense here,
Or
what I
another
say,
way of saying it, you can say
go
I'm
ahead, go
buying
ahead.
or I'm buying myself a new car.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I'm buying myself a new car. That's a nice idea right there. All right. So the present, I'm just focusing on what I'm bringing out. I'm not going to read all of this, but you guys can go back and look at the video, or even if you want this PDF, like I said, I'll put my email up again, or I'll say my email again, and I can send it to whomever wants it. But the present tense, the present expresses the imperfective action. So they use the word kill. So I kill, right? And then the mood. So compared to indicative, all of the other moods do not convey time. It's only conveyed by indicative. Therefore, we will have to determine time by context or by the main verb, right? So if something's in the indicative mood, okay, so if something's in the indicative mood, it denotes an action of a verb as a reality. It's actually happening. It denotes an action of a verb as reality, something that's happening or absolutely likely to happen, right? All right. So, if you guys want to get into Greek, these are like the case endings for for the words. I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna hold this up too long, but studying the Greek has done me a tremendously great service. It definitely took some dedication to start learning it. I actually is teaching myself uh, through the grammar book, Basics of Biblical Greek by William Mounts, and I started learning about the spring summer of 2017. I started learning classical biblical Hebrew, in the fall or winter of 2013. So kudos to the ones who feel they are gifted enough to go ahead and start wanting to get into the Greek, right? All right, so I'm gonna stop screen sharing for a hot second here. I think we're good on time. I think we're good on time. We got some good. We got some good
Yep.
interaction. I haven't been seeing the
Yep.
chat because I'm sharing my screen and I have
Mhm.
the PDF up. Go ahead, Sister E.
I said, yeah, they're interacting a lot. They are interacting a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Who said Yeti? Brother Lot said First Peter chapter 2 verse 11 is in of a New Testament command. Actually, I'm gonna start talking about that. Dang, that's wild. I'm gonna start talking about that. Watch this, you guys. Watch this. So I don't know if you guys have, but I do a lot of first century CE historical backdrop information studies where I'm looking at the political, economic, and agricultural climate of the Roman colonial lands where Paul and the rest of the apostles roamed. Right. So I'm looking to the left here because this is where my notes are. Brother Yeti, Brother Live, he mentioned First Peter chapter 2. Let me tell you something about that real quick. You got passages like Ephesians chapter 5, verses 18 to chapter 6, verses 9 to 9, Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 to chapter 4, verse 6, and then you have First Peter chapter 2, verse 11 to First Peter chapter 3, verse 22. Know what those are called? Those are called Paul's version of the household codes of Yod He Wahe. Let me say that again. You got Ephesians 5:18, all the way to chapter 6, verse 9, Colossians chapter 3, verse 1 to chapter 4, verse 6, and then First Peter chapter 2, verses 11 to chapter 3, verse 22. Those are known as Paul's household codes, right? So they are in stark contrast to the household codes of Caesar, Gaius Julius Caesar Octavianus, or Augustus Caesar of the Greco-Roman world. In German, they are called Haustafel. Let me spell that for you. Haustafel is Haustafel. So Paul's version of the household codes of Yod He Wahe, they're being addressed to wives, husbands, children, and servants and slaves, because that's in opposition to the household codes of Caesar that would only address males, or what is known as the pater familias, right? So let me say that again. Paul's letters are household codes. They're in stark contrast to the household codes of Caesar. The household codes of Caesar only address the males in the Roman colonial lands, and the males were called the pater familias. We're going to define what pater familias is, right? So notice in Ephesians chapter 5, verses 1 to 21, Colossians chapter 3, verses 1 to 17, and First Peter chapter 2, verses 1 to 17, everyone in the community is being addressed as a collective. See, Paul is talking to new converts who are coming over into the covenant of the Most High Yahweh through Yeshua. And the covenant of the Most High Yahweh is actually different from the laws of the land that the Roman colonial citizens are used to, right? Paul had to talk to the citizens of the land in the vernacular they understood. See, in America, we have what? State and federal laws. So while we're actually calling ourselves Israel and trying to uphold the applicable laws of the Torah, right? The instructions, we're trying to uphold the instructions of the Most High Yahweh, the applicable ones, right? Well, we also have to what? As civilians of America, follow our state and federal laws as well. Because I don't know about you, but I don't want to go to jail, prison, the penitentiary. I don't want to go to any of those places. And I sure don't want to have to pay any tickets or fines. So I try not to break any traffic laws. We still have to follow the laws of the land. That's what some people don't realize. The people that Paul were talking to, they were real people who had to deal with social issues. They had to deal with political issues, right? So everyone in the community was being addressed. the wives, the husbands, the children, the slaves, or the servants. Everyone was being addressed. But in the household codes of Caesar, only the male paterfamilias was addressed. Paul is going against the social structure of Caesar. Paul is differentiating the social structure of Yahweh versus the social structure of Caesar. Paul is saying, hey, Caesar is not the son of God who brought the good news. Yeshua is the son of the true and living deity that brought the good news. All right. In Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22 through chapter 6, verse 9, and in Colossians chapter 3, verses 18 to chapter 4, verse 1, and First Peter chapter 2, verses 18 to chapter 3, verse 7, everyone is being individually, such wives, husbands, children, servants, fathers, and masters. So Paul is teaching nations, right? Again, they're new converts to the way. They're living in Roman colonial lands. They're familiar with the land laws, right? So now you understand that hypotasso, the word translated as submit, right? It means to array yourself to go to battle for, by, and with your husband, right? Now you see why Paul finished this household code of Ephesians chapter 6, verse 10 through 17 by saying what? Put on the full or whole armor of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh, because we're soldiers in the army of Yahweh. Because he is using, Paul, he's using the military term of hypotasso to describe the position to voluntarily put oneself in when carrying out the mission for the kingdom of Yahweh they have now been adopted into. See, back in these Roman colonial lands, women were not addressed. Women were second-class citizens. And in Caesar's household, a woman dare not be told she has to actually be a soldier. She would not be told that. But Paul is saying, now that you're adopted into the family of Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh through Yeshua, you have an equal part to play in this. Array yourself in battle.
Correct.
Array yourself in battle with your husbands.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Let's talk more about these household codes of Caesar in the Greco-Roman world that most of these nations lived in. Paul had to talk to them in a certain vernacular that they'd be familiar with, right? So household codes or household tables, they are instructions from Greek philosophers such as Aristotle around the 4th century BCE. And then this guy, this guy, another philosopher, Greek philosopher named Arius Didymus, he was a student of Aristotle. He drew up a summary of Aristotle's household codes for Caesar in the years prior to Yeshua, right? So they're written to promote household management from the Greek philosophers to the paterfamilias, advising how he should manage or treat his wife, children, and slaves for the good of society. And so scholars that study this era note that the household codes found their way into the teaching of some of the Jewish rabbis in the centuries prior to Yeshua, right? They viewed Eve as the prototype woman who was easily deceived, or she was a seductress, luring men to their. A scholar named John Collins writes about the 2nd century BCE Jewish teacher Yeshua ben Sirach, right, being often accused of misogyny in recent years, and the charge is difficult to refute. Here more statements including Genesis 2 and 3.
Hold on.
Okay.
Go back about 10 seconds about when you was explaining Sarah, who you just mentioned.
Sarah. Yeah. Okay, no problem. So some of the Greco-Roman misogyny crept into some of the apocryphal writings, right? John Collins, he writes about Yeshua ben Sirach, right? Accusing of him of, misogyny in some of the texts, like Sirach chapter 25, verse 24. It says, from woman, sin had its beginning, and because of her, we all die. Right? So he has a conclusion of his discourse on the daughters. There's also Sirach chapter 42, verse 14. It says, better the wickedness of a man than the goodness of a woman. Right? So, John Collins, he's a scholar. He's writing about Yeshua ben Sirach actually being influenced by a lot of Greco-Roman misogynists to the point where Yeshua ben Sirach penned these egregious things about a woman into the apocryphal writings. Right? So let me just continue. It says, it has been suggested that the negative representations of the female, and specifically the misogynist expansions of the Eden story that associate Eve with sin, death, and suffering, resulted from the superimposition of Greco-Roman thought and cultural forms on the biblical world. There is no precedent in Hebrew tradition for the view that woman is the source of all evil, but there is a clear Greek precedent in the story of Pandora's box. In Pandora's box, you can see that in the Works and Days by Hesiod, right? I'm going to read and show you guys. Some of this misogynistic viewpoint from the Greek philosophers, right? That Arius Didymus summed up for Gaius Octavianus, who was the emperor at that time. Okay, let me show this here. Okay, good on timing. This is a long study, I know, but so, like I said, I try to be thorough.
You're good. You're good. Take your time.
I tries to be thorough. Okay, so let me share my screen here. We're going to also look at the definition of paterfamilias as well. Okay, share screen. Yep. And sorry, I'm not interacting as much with the chat as I want to, because I actually have the PDF in front of me and also the StreamYard in front of me at the same time.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
Okay. All right. We're going to show some of what's called Aristotle's politics. This going to blow y'all mind. This going to blow your mind. Where is it at? Over here. Let's switch to this over here. Now it's not responding. Come on. Come on. I got to get this Adobe Acrobat DC running right, This thing gonna bother me.
That Adobe Acrobat.
Right, that part. Come on. Okay, so let's scoot you over here first. Let's stop screen sharing. Let me stop screen sharing for a minute and then get this together. Let's scooch this over here. Come on. Okay, now I want to show up. Okay, so let's get to page 11. Come on. There we go. I'm just gonna read a little bit of this. I got so many notes. So many notes. But it's got to be done. Right? Okay. Now we can share the screen. So where did that go? There. Now let's share the screen. Okay. All right. I hope y'all enjoying this so far. Blame it on the 5G.
That is good.
Like, they blame the slowness on the 5G. I'm at the house, so I'm gonna blame it on Xfinity and StreamYard, I'm gonna blame it on. Okay, can uh can y'all see the highlighted portion here? There's the XII, the Roman numeral. Can you see that, Sister E and Sheikah?
You're gonna have to bring it in just a little bit more.
Make it bigger? Okay. So
Yep.
let's see. Let's see. Okay.
That's good.
Okay.
Yep,
Let's
you're
get
good.
rid of that. Yep. Okay. This thing. I think Adobe acts up on the StreamYard more than likely.
Yeah, it does.
Sure. Okay. Because I'm like, okay, why won't you work with me? Okay, I'm going to read some of this. So this is Aristotle's Politics, right? We're going to show how women in the Greco-Roman colonial lands treated their women, right? We're going to see how they treated their women. This is Aristotle's Politics, and this is what Arius Didymus drew from when he wrote up to Gaius Octavius Caesar how to run the Greco-Roman lands. The Greco-Roman lands, remember, are what? Rome, Galatia, Ephesus, Corinth, Colossae, Thessalonica, right? Okay, I'm just going to read some excerpts. Of household management, we have seen that there are three parts. One is the rule of a master over slaves, which has been discussed already. And if you guys want this, you can actually go look this up online. It's called Aristotle's Politics. And it's a whole PDF. It's like 13 pages long. It's really good to look at this whole thing because you guys are going to be floored. So of household management, we have seen that there are three parts. One is the rule of a master over slaves, which has been discussed already. Another of a father, and the third of a husband. A husband and father, we saw, rules over wife and children, both free, but the rule differs. The rule differs. The rule over his children being a royal over his wife, a constitutional rule. For although there may be exceptions to the order of nature, the male is by nature fitter for command than the female, just as the elder and full grown is superior to the younger and more immature. This is the Greco-Roman thought, you guys. And this is the Greek philosophers. This is their thought. But in most constitutional states, the citizens rule and are ruled by turns. For the idea of a constitutional state implies that the natures of the citizens are equal and do not differ at all. Nevertheless, when one rules and the other is ruled, we endeavor to create a difference of outward forms and names and titles of respect, which may be illustrated by the saying of Amasis about his footpan. The relation of the male to the female is of this kind, but there the inequality is permanent. See, when sisters such as Sister E, Sheikah, and myself, and others, we say, stop taking on the oppressor's ways, this is what we're talking about. We're saying stop taking on the Greco-Roman mindset. This is pure example of the Greco-Roman mindset. All right, let me continue to read. Thus, it is clear that household management attends more to men than to the acquisition of inanimate things, and to human excellence more than to the excellence of property, which we call wealth, and to the virtue of freemen more than to the virtue of slaves. A question may indeed be raised whether there is any excellence at all in a slave beyond and higher than merely instrumental and ministerial qualities, whether he can have the virtues of temperance, courage, justice, and the like, or whether slaves possess only bodily and ministerial qualities. Let me pause for a second. You see why Paul had to address everyone individually: wives, fathers, husbands, children, slaves? Because this whole thing right here was like, there's a conception about slaves. I mean, there's a perception about slaves, husbands, fathers, children, wives, from the Greek thought. Let me continue. And whichever way we answer the question, a difficulty arises, for if they have virtue, in what will they differ from freemen? On the other hand, since they are men and share in rational principle, it seems absurd to say that they have no virtue. No virtue, right? A similar question may be raised about women and children, whether they too have virtues. Okay, let me go down a little bit. So, a similar question may be raised about women and children, whether they too have virtues. Ought a woman to be temperate and brave and just, and is a child to be called temperate and intemperate? Or, note, so in general, we may ask about the natural ruler and the natural subject, whether they have the same or different virtues. For if a noble nature is equally required in both, why should one of them always rule and the other always be ruled? Nor can we say that this is a question of degree, for the difference between the ruler and subject is a difference of kind, which the difference of more and less never is. Now watch this. I know I'm reading a lot, but I have to.
You are good, sis. Keep on going. I'm enjoying this. I'm quiet.
Man, right? This is crazy. All right. Yet, how strange is the supposition that the one ought and that the other ought not to have virtue? For if the ruler is intemperate and unjust, how can he rule well? If the subject, how can he obey well? If he be licentious and cowardly, he will certainly not do his duty. It is evident, therefore, that both of them must have a share of virtue, but varying as natural subjects also vary among themselves. Here, the very constitution of the soul has shown us the way. In it, one part naturally rules and the other is subject. And the virtue of the ruler we maintain to be different from that of the subject, the one being the virtue of the rational and the other of the irrational part. Now, it is obvious that the same principle applies generally, and therefore almost all things rule and are ruled according to nature. So they're saying the male is the ruler by nature, and everybody else got to be ruled by nature. This is the Greek philosophical thought. Now watch this. Keep watching. Hold on. Let's see. But the kind of rule differs. The free man rules over the slave after another manner from that in which the male rules over the female, or the man over the child, although the parts of the soul are present in and of them, they are present in different degrees. For the slave has no deliberative faculty at all. The woman has, but it is without authority, and the child has, but it is immature. Right? I don't know if y'all are catching this thing here.
I'm listening.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like Ricky Bobby, if you're not first, you're last stuff going on here.
Right? Right? Okay, watch this. The ruler ought to have moral virtue in perfection, for his function, taken absolutely, demands a master artificer, and rational principle is such an artificer. The subjects, on the other hand, require only that measure of virtue which is proper to each of them. Moral virtue belongs to all of them, but the temperance of a man and of a woman, or the courage and justice of a man and of a woman are not, as Socrates maintained, the same. The courage of a man is shown in commanding, of a woman in obeying. All classes must be deemed to have their special attributes. As the poet says of women, silence is a woman's glory. But this is not equally the glory of man.
Mm.
Right? I believe that's all I wanted to read of that. Uh, Let me stop screen sharing for a minute here.
So go back to that point, and that's the Greek. What was
Go back to where?
no, I got a question about it. Now. What's that document again to
Yes.
make sure?
This is called Aristotle's Politics.
So he pretty much is saying a woman just needs to be quiet.
A woman has to
Primarily.
be ruled. By nature, a woman has to be ruled. She has to be quiet. The male has to rule over the wife, the slaves,
That's
the children. And notice, remember when I said Paul's letters, his
coincide.
household codes, it was in stark opposition. It's called subversive speech. Notice Paul talked to wives first, like Queen Latifah, one of my favorite rappers. She said, "Ooh, ladies first." You know, there was a respect given. Paul had a respect. So he was talking to wives, then he talked to fathers, then he talked to husbands, right? He talked to children and slaves. So this Aristotle's Politics, guess who it only talked to? The male. The woman wasn't addressed. She was pretty much nothing. The slave wasn't addressed. The children were not addressed. You see what's going on here?
Look at the order of how he spoke to Priscilla and Aquila.
Right,
Even when you look at the name order.
right.
So, and he never just referenced the husband. He always you saw Priscilla and Aquila, and it
He
should have
addressed
been.
this. Everyone was
So,
on equal plane. Yes, go ahead, Shika.
so would the culture also drive that as well? Like, how educated were women to read? How educated were slaves to read? Is there something behind him addressing men as far as getting this information out there? The selling of his work. So that's what I would wonder as well.
Okay, so you're wondering if Aristotle is addressing the men.
No, I wonder if his addressing of men and basically telling them what they want to hear because
Oh
this
yeah.
is what.
Oh no, that's what drove the whole society. This was given to Caesar, and it was given to Caesar. Caesar was actually called the savior, pretty much, of the whole Roman colonial land. And so Aristotle's Politics is like, here, Caesar, this is how you govern everyone. And so Caesar gave that as rule to the males.
But were women allowed to read? What were they allowed to? Would they even be audience to this information? Is what I'm.
The elite were the wealthy and elite women were, especially of those who were the family of Caesar, right? You had to be some sort of a what the boy would call high value women. The high value women, they were able to read, but these other women, no. I mean, they were there's a lot of educated women. They did have some rights. However, they only had a certain amount of rights. Not like we have today, Shika. They had limited amount of rights. Very limited. Very limited.
Well, I think that line in a poem where it says, "Oh, that's the glory of a woman," actually goes against what we see in the Tanakh. I mean, almost
Yeah.
every heroine, they had to speak up in order to be the heroine. So That's
Absolutely.
definitely where you can see the clashes in culture.
Right. Absolutely. This is wild, right?
But that injection is still happening today. You know, we still have men with misogynist mindsets, and some women who agree with it read the
Hmm.
text and say, and I'll give an example, like when a when a woman does a oath or a vow, her husband can then come and nullify it. And they'll say, see, that's me. That's me, the man dominating you. See, I can nullify your whole thing. And I'm like, no, 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 no. And I talked about this with Israel Doctrine. And I was like, wait a minute. How does a man nullify his oath? How does a man nullify his oath? He can't. This is a benefit to the woman, and this allows the man to fulfill his role as protector of his family. You know, well, both were protectors of the family, but specifically his wife. You know, and so this is a benefit that I'm sure many men wish they had somebody to intervene on them. So this is not a male dominance thing, but it is if you have a misogynist mindset and then you read this text and say, see, that's what that is, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, this is going to show that a lot of us who call ourselves Israel, we actually would benefit from learning what is the Hebraic culture versus what is the Greco-Roman culture. Because a lot of people who call themselves Israel has adopted the Greco-Roman culture and want to call it Hebraic, and it's not. And shout out to my teacher in here, Moray David Royal. That's my
Wow.
teacher in here.
Wow.
See
So
that brother is fluent in biblical classical Hebrew and Israeli Hebrew. That's one of my teachers.
wow.
Oh, who was saying wow?
Me, because
Sister
I'm
E.
sitting here, Sister E, I'm sorry, I said me, and you asked cool. And I say me, like, I'm sorry. But it
Good.
was so interesting because I know we're going to talk about how Paul, those scriptures that are used that are being misinterpreted
Mm-hmm.
for self gain. Like
Mm-hmm.
most people, when it talked about how Paul telling the woman being silent when he was speaking.
He was actually telling the woman to be attentive. When you're a student in a class like Sheikah knows, you can't have the kids being rambunctious when you're trying to teach them something they can't learn anything. What do they need to do? Be silent so they can be attentive and pay attention and soak in the information that she's trying to convey as a teacher.
Yep,
That's what that word actually means in the Greek. It don't mean shut up. It means be attentive.
correct,
Yeah, there
correct.
was actually like a issue, you know, where women were like, I don't get it, you know, tell me more, expound upon it. You know, this is assembly during midrash. You know, you are quiet, you are listening, you are this. So that's the instruction. And ladies, no, Facebook, Clubhouse, all of that is not assembly or midrash unless you signing up for that because oftentimes men will engage you in conversation, and then when they start lose footing, they'll break out Timothy, and that is not inappropriate.
I had someone to do me like that where the moment I started catching him on some foolishness on something he was saying, and I can't remember, he was saying something like God has a wife. I said, "Oh no, yes,
Oh
yeah."
my goodness.
I said, "You know this town. You know that's not Torah. No,
Right.
it's not Torah at all." And the conversation went left, and then there was another part of that conversation where I can't remember off the top of my head, but we had started talking about scripture, and everything he was saying wasn't making any sense. And at the end of the conversation, it was like, I shouldn't be talking to you anyway because you're a woman. Where's your husband?
Mm.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Hey,
a deflection too. It's deflection because now they don't know which way to go, so they'll deflect.
I want us to talk about that too. I'm gonna have a panel conversation because I've heard people say foolishness that God has had a wife. They use that one about wisdom.
Nah, we could definitely talk about that.
But I mean, I'm just bringing that up because I just, when you said that, it made me think about the conversations I've come across with certain people when they cannot, when certain men cannot get their point across
Mm.
to that. Well, I shouldn't be talking to you. I need to talk to your husband or your father. Well, why did Paul talk to Priscilla? Why did Paul interact with Priscilla and Aquila? But he interacted with Priscilla as well.
Exactly.
Why
Directly.
did he?
And he did not say, hey, go get your husband. Where they at? Let me talk to them.
Yes, yes.
I'm gonna
That
tell y'all
right
right
there.
now. Y'all don't want to hear from my husband. Y'all don't want to hear from my husband because y'all gonna hear some things y'all don't want to hear. You know what I mean? he already had to come on live and put some things down, you know.
Oh,
But
that's
yeah. Oh yeah. My husband fully supports me and I fully support him. We fully support each other.
because y'all are
We
a unit.
we we are a unit. We are echad. I arrange myself voluntarily in battle with and by my husband. That's what I do. So when somebody asks ShanT, do you submit? You know what's in my head? The first century CE definition. This American Greco-Roman borrowed definition. It's not even Greco-Roman. I mean, as we saw from Hippotasso, we saw what the actual first century CE definition was. Actually, let me show you guys the book now.
Okay.
That I was getting the definitions from. This is pertinent to New Testament understanding. See, you got to go beyond the Strongs and you got to go beyond these lexicons sometimes, right? Intermediate Greek English lexicon by Liddell and Scotts, right? There's a PDF of this I got from Brother Ron Shields because I'm subscribed to his Patreon and he actually has that PDF available. So this is where I was getting the first century CE definitions from for New Testament. This is what I look at for New Testament. I don't know if you noticed when I put up the pictures for looking at Hippotasso and Akuo. You notice there's no Strong's numbers in there. I'm going straight Greek. This is straight Greek. I don't even know if you can see it, but it's just straight up Greek. No Strong's numbers in here. I'm looking up words.
Wow.
Also, what helps me to let me see. Let me just put up some of my sources here before I go back to screen sharing. Um, this is the parsing guide to the New Testament that I use at times. When I was showing how I see something, if something's in the present tense, something's in the middle mood or whatever, the middle voice, and the indicative mood, right? This is a parsing guide. This is for the New Testament, and then I learned biblical Greek from this book right here. I don't this book. This is William D. Mounts, biblical Greek, William D. Mounts. Uh, like I said, I started learning since I think that was summer 2017, and then I haven't really gotten any Greek teachers to bounce anything off of. I'm still looking for one because teachers have teachers. The teachers have teachers. So that's why I said brother David Royal is one of my Hebrew teachers, as well as brother Amitz Ben Yehuda. That's my actual teacher right now. I'm going through 22 classes with him. What up, brother Zadok? Zadok is actually a student too of brother Amitz Ben Yehuda right now as well. So I mean, Hey, when you really serious about this word, you're gonna do what it takes to get it in. So
What's
oh
up,
yeah,
Zadok?
yeah,
Thank you
they
for the
died.
super chat. Thank you. He over there cutting
Blessings.
up. I already know where he is. Cutting
Oh
up.
yeah, cutting up. Oh yeah, he stay cutting up. You
Come on,
know,
come
I didn't tell y'all. I gotta say this real quick. When Zadok came to Sacramento, because he's a part of Hog Mob. Shout out to Hog Mob with Seven. Seven's actually from Sacramento, and Zadok came here to Sacramento a few years back, and I'm 5'2".
That's why I
Okay.
was gonna ask you. How do you know he's Zadok for real? Every single picture I see of Zadok, he looks like the Jolly Giant. I'm like, dude, when you in screen, you look like you about 5'10". But when I saw that picture of him, I said, dude, are you a giant? How tall is Zadok? How tall is he? I know he about 7 feet.
Got to be
That's what he
about
looked like in that picture.
6'4".
And then I had one day I was like, Zadok tall, and Zadok did his hands like this. I said, oh yeah, he tall. His hands are
Hold
big.
on. Okay. So this has, you know, it was a song from Ludacris back in the way back, right? When I was standing next to Zadok, if he had a necklace on, I was like that midget hanging from Zadok's necklace. That's what I felt looking at Zadok. I was like, yeah. So, when you hanging out with the Christian brethren, how did they deal with you? Being an Israelite, you rapping. You know what I mean? That's how I'm looking at.
Are you serious? I got to see Zadok. I got to meet Zadok in
Yeah.
person. Man, I looked at a picture of this dude on something when he did his listening party, and he was standing up next to somebody in the video, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, Zadok is extremely." He looks short when he on that camera because he's talking and he low.
Right,
That dude is
man,
tall.
man. Yeah. It
I
was
didn't
like a
realize.
midget is hanging from the necklace. I was the midget hanging from that man's necklace
How
that
tall
night.
are you?
Oh my gosh.
How tall are you?
How tall are you, Zadok?
I'm saying, how tall are you, Shanti?
I'm
Shanti,
5'2".
so you're the same height as me then. So both of us, yeah.
Right. We short.
Yes.
We sh- yeah. Hey, that was a joyous 30 minutes. My neck, you know. Oh boy, I had to, straighten out my neck. Oh, you 6'5". See, I was one off. He's 5. I was one off.
If I meet him, I'm standing on a chair. I refuse to be looking up like that. I'm like, I need to see you eye to eye. Dude, I gotta be able to talk to you eye to eye. I'm gonna find me a step stool. I'm that one that will go get a step stool.
Oh man, yeah, Zadok. Boy, hey, that brother is a blessing.
Yeah,
A
he is.
blessing.
I'm gonna be in your class Saturday. I had to work on this Saturday morning again, Zadok. But it's the last Saturday. We got it fixed finally. Oh, you know how you on call, Shanti, and they call you and you just like, oh my gosh, I want to throw this phone in the garbage.
Man, who you telling? Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
but this my last Saturday. Praise Yah. I'm I'm good.
Mm.
So, but
All
I
right,
got to
so
be safe.
all
Oh,
right. I'm
thank
gonna
you for
go
the
back to
super chat.
sharing this.
Come on, I
Yep.
got
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to my computer.
you. You breaking up again, sis. Say something again, Shanti.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to sharing information. I'm
Yeah.
like I'm like halfway through.
Come on, take your time.
I'm like halfway through. Okay, so I'm gonna show what Arius Didymus actually said about women. Right? I'm gonna show a little excerpt. The excerpt I couldn't get the direct source, but I got the reference. The reference came from a book called, what is this called? It came from a book called Apostle on the Edge by Cosby. Michael Cosby. So I'm going to show you what Arius Didymus said about the women. And remember, Paul is in stark, a lot of Paul's letters are in stark contrast to the Greco-Roman mindset and the treatment of women or wives, children, and slaves, right? So let me go back to sharing. And thank y'all for bearing with me, while we're talking and giving commentary, asking questions, I want this to be fun too, right? It's fun learning. I geek out on this stuff. I geek out for the Lord, I geek out. I geek out on this stuff, especially when it's liberating. This was liberating to me, and I hope it is to you all, right? I really hope it is. All right, so I'm going to read a little bit of what Arius Didymus says. So let's see.
I'm gonna be right back. You got your screen you want? Okay.
Yep. All right. Can you see that, Sheik? Can you see a little bit, or should I make it bigger?
It's good.
Okay.
I can see.
I'm gonna start reading this little section right here. Okay, so now that it is clear what are the component parts of the state, we have first of all to discuss the household management. For every state is composed of households. Household management falls into departments corresponding to the parts of which the household in its turn is composed. And the household in its perfect form consists of slaves and freemen, right? Okay, so let's scooch over. I think I want to scooch over here, I think. Scooch down. Okay, so now it just wants to be difficult.
Okay, I'm back. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll down. Okay, there it goes. Okay. Here we go. It's crazy that I made sure this thing was working before, like hours before I came on the live. All right. So
You good. Take your time.
okay, let's see.
I may have to run out real quick and take my dog outside. I'm gonna let you have the screen and I'm gonna come right back.
Okay.
But keep going. I'm listening.
Okay. All right. So, okay, this section here next. Okay. Hence, there are by nature various classes of rulers and ruled. So this is his summary of Aristotle's Politics, right? For the free rules the slave, the male, the female, and the man, the child in a different way. And all possess the various parts of the soul, but possess them in different ways. For the slave has not got the deliberative part at all, and the female has it, but without full authority, while the child has it, but in an undeveloped form. Right? Okay, let's see. Now these are other writings from Greek philosophers here that I'm gonna read. This is that was Aristotle's Politics. That was a summary of Aristotle's Politics, what we were reading before, right? Okay. Let's see. Do I want to read that? No. I want to read this down here. Okay, here we go. Uh-huh. Okay, here we go. This is the, so this, while I'm circling this section, here's what I want to read. Okay, so this is from Aristodemus. So this is Aristodemus' summary of Aristotle, what he wrote. There is a primary constitution in the union of a man and a woman according to the law for the begetting of children and for community of life. So when he talks about law, he's talking about the laws of the Roman colonial lands, right? This is called a house, which is the beginning of a city. The man has the rule of this house by nature. For the deliberative faculty in a woman is inferior. In children, it does not yet exist, and it is completely foreign to slaves. Rational household management, which is the controlling of a house and of those things related to the house, is fitted for a man. Right? Now, I'm also going to read what I was talking about as to what a paterfamilias is. Remember that Aristotle, in the Roman colonial lands, Greek philosopher he wrote to Gaius Octavius, the emperor at the time, of how to control the whole household of Caesar, right? So let's see. Oh, hold on. I'm gonna have to stop screen sharing here. I'm gonna stop screen sharing that and then pull it up here. So P&M rolls. Okay, we got good timing, good timing, right? Oh yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna read pages 1, 2, and 3 of this of what I have highlighted. So remember when I said Aristotle only wrote to the male, only wrote to the paterfamilias, right? And you're gonna see where a lot of our American terms come from, especially like when we do taxes. So we're actually genuinely defining what phrases mean and what words mean, especially in their first century context, as opposed to what something means in the 21st century for us Americans, right? Okay, so let me share the screen again here. I know how to work this thing now. I know how to work it now. Yeah, that's what he says, Zadok. The female is deliberatively inferior. Abigail sure didn't get the memo. Thank you for saying that. That was, like I said, if you guys want if you want this PDF slideshow that I'm sharing, hit me up in my email, duckandodge1@gmail.com. That is DUCCNDODGE.
Up, Ashanti. Can you say something? Freezing up a little bit. You may have to go back and come back in, or okay.
Sure, off
Okay,
stuff.
back.
They're off the internet. You know what
We
I'm saying?
back.
You're back.
You
Okay, you're back. All right.
back.
Okay, you can see the screen now, right? I'm sharing the PDF here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this article I found online. This is called and if you want this too, I think I think I was a part of JSTOR, JSTOR. I think that's where I got this from or something like that. It was a while back. Either I think I might have paid for it even. But this stuff is very pertinent and significant to me, so I didn't mind paying for it. I didn't have to pay a lot. If you want it, send me an email. I'll give you all my notes. This is called Paterfamilias, Materfamilias, and the Gendered Semantics of the Roman Household by Richard P. Soller. Right? So Richard P. Soller, last I was saying, he was a professor, Stanford University, so he's an accredited scholar, historian. Right? I'm only gonna read to you a portion of what's here. So Paterfamilias, mind you, that the Greco-Roman world only addressed the male, and the male was called the paterfamilias. Watch this. All right. Let's read from the beginning. Few Latin terms come as heavily loaded with conceptual baggage as paterfamilias. In both scholarly and popular discourse, paterfamilias, defined as head of household, evokes the patriarchal organization characteristic of the Roman family and of the wider society. Debates over family values in contemporary popular discourse make shorthand and clumsy references to the paterfamilias model of the family or the Roman code of paterfamilias, as if everyone understands the content of that model. All right. Now let's read the highlighted parts. It says the real encyclopedia, and you know that's German. It says includes a long entry on paterfamilias by E. Satchers, who asserts that in the reverence and obedience toward the paterfamilias lay the characteristic foundation for the greatness of ancient Rome. I begin by illustrating the common modern understanding of paterfamilias as the severe patriarch whose power defined the Roman family. The most common meaning of paterfamilias is estate owner, without reference to familial relations. Estate owner. So this is why, like in America, on our taxes, people who are legally married do not file head of household. People who file head of household are single parents with dependents. Estate owner, asset owner. So the people who live in the paterfamilias' house, that person is in charge of the assets. So paterfamilias, head of household, is owner. Let me continue to read a little bit here. Okay. The Oxford Latin Dictionary offers the following meaning as a 4a under paterfamilias, the head of a family, a householder. Lewis, in short, under familia gives a more accurate definition: the proprietor of an estate, head of a family. The term had no necessary association with family as we use the word today, right? F. DuPont's chapter on the family in her daily life in ancient Rome starts in a typical fashion from the paterfamilias. Family, in its Latin sense, familia, covered every member of the household subject to the power of the father of the family, the paterfamilias, which would include the children, the slaves, and sometimes, depending on the type of marriage she had contracted, the wife. So in this presentation, the paterfamilias is the authoritative figure whose power over members defines the family. So the family not only was, the wife and the children, it was anybody in the household, right? Including the slaves or the servants. The paterfamilias head of household was the asset owner. That person would be in charge of the assets, right? The evolutionary myth of Roman society included the stark picture of the simple but virtuous life of early Rome, where the tyrannical paterfamilias reigned supreme over children and wife alike. In the adjective tyrannical, Dixon captures the modern stereotype of the paterfamilias. Other common epithets are severe, authoritarian, oppressive, and rigid, right? I'm just reading some of this. I'm not going to read all of this. This is like 16 pages, right? I'm just reading the pertinent parts, right? Legal definition of, and usage of the word paterfamilias. So let's hit it home here. Richard Soller is talking, right? My analysis of paterfamilias in the digest starts from Oppian's formal definition and then examines how the term was used in many contexts to indicate the paradigmatic property owner, male or female. So, paterfamilias was a key legal concept in the Roman law of persons and property, and it is surprisingly uncommon in other genres. The basic legal definition of paterfamilias is a male citizen, sui juris, or juris, right? That is in his own power without a paterfamilias. Central to the legal definition of familia, as those subunius potestate. I can't read all of that. I'm not going to read all of that, but I'm going to continue to read the highlighted parts, right? So central to the legal definition of familia as those under the power of one man, for example, the father of the familia, the mother of the familia, the son of the familia, the daughter of the familia, and those who follow them in turn, for example, grandsons and granddaughters, and so on. The slaves and the estate were part of the potter's familia. Now you see why Paul had to address what? The servants and the slaves. Paul knows the social and political climate of where he's going to. He's talking to newfound converts again to the Most High Yahweh through Yeshua, talking to them in the vernacular they would understand, talking to them with some of the terminology they would understand as far as their political and social climate. Right? So Paul's household codes were in stark difference or in opposition to Caesar's household codes that Caesar got from the Greek philosophers, right? The potter's power included several dimensions of authority. So his potestas over his children and his wife, if in manus, and we're going to talk about potestas and manus, his potestas or dominium over his human cattle or slaves, and his dominium over the family's property. In legal use, the minimum essential dimension was the third, the capacity to own property. Fatherhood was not an essential aspect of a pater familias. It was just the male, the adult male, the oldest living adult male in the house, right? Let's see. That's all I want to read from there. Let's stop screen sharing. Actually,
Hey,
no.
do me
Yeah,
a
go
favor.
ahead. Go
ShanT,
ahead.
do me a favor. Type your
Yes,
email address in the private chat so I can put it in the public chat, or because Zadok and a couple of others want your email. But you can
got
continue
you.
on. I don't want to
Okay,
stop
no
you.
problem. No, you're fine. Let me do that right now. Let me do that right now. Let me stop the share. Let me stop the screen share, and I'll go back to it. Okay, let's do that. Let's do that now. Yes. Okay, there we go. Things to read, and then I'll be out there. See. Okay, there it goes. Okay, I'm gonna send that. Okay. Yeah, so the paterfamilias, that's where we get the term head of household from. And it did not necessarily mean fatherhood, right? It meant the estate owner, the asset owner. And it meant everyone who was living in the household of the paterfamilias, such as the children, the wife, the slaves or the servants. The paterfamilias would be the estate owner or asset owner of what everyone in the household had, right? Okay. So, what did I say? A manus marriage. Um, let's see here. Am I breaking up still or no?
You're good. You're good.
I'm good. Okay. Okay. Let me check something here. Everything's starting to get slow. with my computer over here. Maybe somebody's on the internet. Maybe he's on the internet. I don't know. Okay,
Yep.
so let me do this. Let me share the screen one more time.
Okay.
I'm going to show you guys some websites that you can go look up these terms and definitions and actually get some more historical understanding of what Paul was dealing with as far as the Roman colonial lands, political and social structure and climate. Right? This is Paul going against Caesar. This is Paul talking to people who are now adopted into the Most High Yahweh's family or household and saying, hey, if you're being a part of this household now, these are the way we function, right? These are the ways we function. This is the way we operate. We know you have to follow the laws of the land here. However, following the laws of the land, make sure they're still in line with the instructions of the Most High Yahweh Torah, right?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sharing your screen now.
Yep. So the manus marriage, it says if a woman has the manus marriage, right, in Roman law, right? So a manus marriage in Roman law, autocratic power of the husband over the wife corresponding to patria potestas of the father over his children. A daughter ceased to be under her father's potestas if she came under the manus of her husband. So manus marriage, if a woman had a manus marriage, because all Roman women citizens did not have a manus marriage. So manus meant total autocratic power of the husband over the wife. Patria potestas, right? So a daughter ceased to be under her father's potestas or total autocratic power if she came under the manus of her. So marriage without manus, however, was by far more common in all periods of Roman history, except by the time of the 12. You guys go look up this. I'm not going to show you all of this, but the 12 is by the time that was 451 and 450 BC, right? So this was way before Yeshua hit the scene, right? It was possible to be married without manus, so that the wife remained under her father's potestas if he was still alive. So in marriage without manus, the property of the spouses remained distinct. Divorce in marriage with manus was always possible at the instance of the husband. In marriage without manus, watch this. In marriage without manus, either party was able to put an end to the relationship at will. Right? Go look this stuff up. Right? This is some of the stuff to go look at. Right? Oh, you know what? I want to show this one first. Do you know in the Roman colonial lands, there was a law in the books, and this is called the Lex Julia de Adulteris Coercin, right? There is a law that allowed married husbands to commit adultery on their wives legally with high-class courtesans, prostitutes called heterae. That was a legal law of the land. And so let me insert this real quick. 1 Corinthians 11. I'm going to say this. And if anyone has contention with this, no problem. We can talk, we can dialogue, we can converse. Remember what I was saying about the Greek word kephali, translated for head, in 1 Corinthians 11, how the first century CE definition did not mean leader, ruler, or authority. It meant the head, like as something that's on the top of the body, or like the head source of a river, something that is the source, right? So when it says Christ is the source of the church, oh, did I just say that? Christ is the head of the church, source of the church, or source of the ecclesia, or source of the assembly or congregation, right? The head is where things stem from to the rest of the body, correct?
Correct.
Oh, okay. Makes sense. So in 1 Corinthians 11, when it's talking about the woman had to have a on her head if she was married, right? I'm going somewhere with this. There
Wait a
is a
minute.
law.
Did you talk about
Go
what
ahead.
did you say? Go back over that law again? I'm gonna be quiet. It has what have what over her head? I thought I missed
There
something.
is there is a law. Paul was actually talking about people who had land laws, right? So before that, before I talked about 1 Corinthians 11, I was saying that there is a law, a legal law of the Roman colonial lands where Paul roamed. There was a legal law that allowed married husbands to commit adultery on their wives with high class courtesans or prostitutes called hetairai. They're like escorts back in the day, back in that time, first century CE. Okay, this is not a lie. I have it right in front of you. I just need to make it bigger. That law is called the Lex Julia de Adulteris Cor Air Sindis. I'm making it bigger. Okay. Now in 1 Corinthians 11, this goes with 1 Corinthians 11. Okay. So I don't like to argue with people because some people may not have gone over this information, or some people just have a clear bias and they don't want to hear anything anybody has to bring out. In 1 Corinthians 11, when Paul says a woman has to have a piece of cloth, a married woman has to have a piece of cloth on her head. A married woman has to have a piece of cloth on her head to signify to everyone that she was married. Because in the Roman colonial lands, you are what you wore. Okay?
You finna upset them now. Oh, all these messages I get of Sister E, cover your head. Come on, come on.
I have sources for days. I have sources for days on this.
Uh-oh.
So the
Sorry.
woman, this is why it's very pertinent to understand these social laws and political laws that the people in these lands had to deal with. We think they was just following Torah or being taught to follow Torah. No.
Uh-oh. Here come the emails.
Here come the email, Sister E. Oh.
Sister E, you still need to cover your head.
Oh man. Well, watch this. So, a legal law of the land of the Roman colonial places that Paul roamed, a married woman had to wear a piece of cloth on her head to symbolize that she was married. Now, the high class courtesan prostitute women who were called the hetairai, guess what they had to do? They had to not wear a piece of cloth on their head to signal to everyone around that they were what? That they were high class courtesan prostitutes, hetairai.
Man.
That's what that was about. Now, Paul is saying, yes, women, you're coming over into the Most High Yahweh's covenant through Yeshua. Over here in Torah law, we don't have that law. However, since this is the law of the land, which actually doesn't go against anything in the written Torah, go ahead and do it because it's the law of the land. Married women, put this piece of cloth on your head before the Roman authorities come and get you.
Ernest, they gonna be good and mad. Oh, and some Hebrew men right now just throwing ashes on their head. Just you know how they get mad, be renting their clothes and throwing ashes right now.
Right? Huh? That's what that was about. Paul was saying, as long as your laws of the land don't go against Torah law, go ahead and do it. You have to be safe here. Why? Because the women who were married, if they were not found with cloth on their head to signal that they were married, they would actually be accused of playing the prostitute, right? And their husbands were to legally punish them. Legally punish them, bring them to the court, have them criminally punished. That's what this is in front of y'all. This is Roman history, 31 BC to 117 CE. Roman imperial history teaching resource. Lex Julia de Adulteris Coercindis. The Julian law for the repression of adultery, passed in 18 BC. Let me read a little bit of this. The law made adultery a crime for women. Watch this. Previously, adultery was a private matter to be resolved by the parties involved, the husband, his wife, and her legal representative, normally her father. The law criminalized the actions of the lover as well. It placed the responsibility on a husband to prosecute an adulterous wife and her lover. It allowed a third party to prosecute an adulterous couple and further to bring charges against the husband if he had not prosecuted. Definition of adultery. Our understanding of adultery derives from a common moral and religious tradition. Adultery in many of our cultures is seen as a married person having sexual relations with a person other than his or her spouse. The Romans had a more complex definition. Watch this. Adultery was a man having sex with a married woman who was not his wife, or a married woman having sex with someone who was not her husband, regardless of their status. Both parties were then guilty of an offense. This meant that a man who had sex with a boy or with an unmarried girl of high status was not guilty of adultery, though he did run the risk of being found guilty of stuprum or rape. Another definition: a man who has sexual relations with a prostitute registered. They had registered prostitutes. A man who has sexual relations with a prostitute registered or kept a concubine of low class or had sexual relations with freed women or men or slaves, either his or someone else's, was not guilty of adultery.
You keep throwing men in here, and it's like somebody said there's nothing new under the sun. It's really not. Nothing new.
Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the penalties, right? The penalties were extreme. And then it has a discussion on further, about this law. This was a legal law of the land during the time before Yeshua came and during the time of Paul when he roamed. This is what Paul had to deal with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, 1 Corinthians 11, when it says a man should not pray or prophesy with a cloth over his head. Well, in Greece, right, you were what you wore. In Greece, they wore what? The toga. The toga. What these men were doing, right? These men who were not, they were not familiar with Most High Yahweh's Torah just yet, right? They were familiar with pagan practices and worship of pagan deities, correct?
Correct.
Gods and goddesses. Now, a lot of the time, the Caesars and some of their family members were worshipped as deities. That is called imperial cult worship. Look that up. Imperial cult worship. Sometimes the Caesars were deified as gods, and also their family members deified as gods, and the citizens of the city-states had to actually sacrifice to these deified beings. They had to sacrifice to these deified beings. Now, the men, 1 Corinthians 11, what they were doing when they were praying or prophesying with their head covered, what they would do is what you call capite velato, the veiled head. Capite velato. They would take the toga and act as the pagan priests who were the in-between for the citizens and them deifying or actually sacrificing to these deified Caesars and their family. Right? That's what the men were doing. They were putting the toga on, acting as the pagan priest, taking the offerings of the Roman citizens who sacrificed to these deified beings of the Caesars and their family members. Paul said that is against Torah. You can't worship the Most High Yod He Wahe and these other gods and goddesses at the same time. You coming over into this walk, this is a no-no. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 11. That's what it is. This is why it's important to understand the history. See, we have Paul's letters as responses where people where new converts are writing him when they're having some sort of misunderstanding. They don't know everything just yet, or they're trying to get some insight on how to deal with new things, deal with things as they're coming into the faith. Right? They still had these laws of the land to deal with. When Yeshua died, was buried, and resurrected, these Roman colonial lands, laws of the land existed. You not realize that. So Paul is telling the women, the married women, it is a legal law of the land. If you're married, go ahead and keep the cloth on. Because if you get caught without this cloth, you're actually acting as though you're the harlot or the prostitute or the high class courtesan hetero. You don't want to be criminally punished. Go ahead and put it on. This right here has nothing to do with Torah, written Torah law. Let me just say written Torah, because there's oral Torah as well, right? Another thing you can look at, this is called Roman society and social classes. You could look at the caste system. The caste system. It's a hierarchy. This is where hierarchy comes from. See, the Most High Yahweh does have positions. However, somebody in a certain position is not better than the next person. So when a wife is looked at as a second-class citizen in the Roman colonial world, the Most High Yahweh does not look at women as second-class citizens. We do have an equal job. You know what that is? The equal job is to what? Work and serve. Abad and Shamar. You know who was given the original commandment to abad and Shamar, or work and to serve, or to what? To dress and to keep. That's how it was translated. You know who was given that first commandment? Humanity, the male and the female. Adam, or the anthropos, is a male and female pair. Humankind, humanity, human beings. Human beings were the first priests. They were told to what? Abad and Shamar. The same language used for the priest. They were told to work and serve. When you work and serve one another, you actually solidify the sovereignty of the Most High Yahweh and proclaim that Yahweh is the deity that's on the throne over all heaven and all earth. Right? So back to this. There is no hierarchy in the text of the Torah. There's no hierarchy. There is no hierarchy. Yes, you might have different positions. You know, you might have different rank, like the military or whatever. Everyone has to come together collectively as a unit to get the job done. You might be in this position over here. You might be in this position over there. Sister E might be working the computers. Brother Zadok may be over there shooting the MRs or whatever. Orthodox Moore may be the MP over here. Everybody's working as a collective, though. Everyone's position is important. The Most High did not have a caste system like a pyramid, where you got the elite on top and then the rest of the peasants and the plebeians on the bottom. The Most High did not authorize that. That is from the Greeks and the Romans. And actually it came from like the Persians. If you look it up, CASTE, caste system. So the caste system had you got your patricians and plebeians, right? But you can go back and read this here. The emperor was on the top. That was the head of the Roman society and ruler of all Rome. Then you had the patricians, the wealthy people. Then you had the senators. Then you had the equestrians, the wealthy property owners, right? Then you had the proletariats, the plebeians, the working class people. Then you had the freed slaves. Then you had the slaves. That's a caste hierarchical system there. The Most High did not establish that, right? So let me see. You can read one more, and then I'm going to finish up and do some reading here. Okay, so this is where I'm not. I should be saying where these websites are. This is Ancient Roman Family Life. Donald Wassman, another historian. This was good stuff. But you could read further about the paterfamilias, about these words of potestas, about the males and who has absolute power, and who and what kind of marriages were going on, and how Caesar ruled over marriages and everything. So Caesar ruled everything down to somebody's bedroom. That's what was going on in the Roman colonial lands. And Paul came in Ephesians, Colossians, and First Peter, and did his own version of household codes. And Paul was like, "Hey, I'm teaching y'all about the household of Yahweh. In the household of Yahweh, you have this liberation here. The woman is not inferior. The woman is equal to the man. Man is equal to the woman in that they what? They both have to what? Serve one another. Work in conjunction with one another to array in battle, to array or get yourself in a form like for combat in battle with or for by your husband. And what did Ephesians 5:21 say? Do that to one another. It said, "Hypotasemenoi alili." What it say? Alilitin. Submit yourselves one to another. And submit yourselves, we saw that the definition was what? To go to battle with, to arrange yourself in a military combat form here to go to battle by your husband or by one another. Put on the full armor of God. That's why in Ephesians 6, Paul finishes with that. That's why Paul is using a military term that we want to call submit, right? Paul is using a military term saying, put on the full armor of the Most High Yahweh, because you're battling these principalities here. And it's liberating to get the historical backdrop, right? So this was www.worldhistory.org. Ancient Roman Family. Like the other one was Roman Society and Roman Society and Social Classes. www.historyonthenet.com. The one about the Manus marriage, that's the Britannica.com, right? It's not even going to come up. And then the one about the adultery, that's Ancient Roman History 31-14.com. Augustus and Reform and Order 1918, Moral Reforms, Lex Julia de Adulteris. So actually you can actually search for this article here by just typing in Lex Julia de Adulteris Coercindis. This part right there. You can actually search Google by putting in there. All right. So let me stop screen sharing and let me finish up here. Says who said Yeti Brother Live? Although can a woman lead her husband as head of household? I think a woman leads more by the examples of her action. Actually, I think we get into this thing about leading. These definitions that I brought up, Yeti Brother Live, we didn't even see anything about leadership in there. But I will tell you this. We all teach each other more so by our actions than our words. There's a word in First Timothy chapter 5, I believe, verse 14. I believe the word is oikodespoteo. Oikodespoteo. It means ruler or manager of a household. When it says wives, keep the home. These translators, that's like sometimes they miss a little bit when they're translating. So it means ruler, head, household manager. If you actually look it up, oikodespoteo, oikodespoteo, if I'm recalling correct off the head. But let me finish up here. So the women of influence, a lot of women of influence came into the walk without their husbands. Some of their husbands remain unbelievers. We do have to remember that, right? And we see that from Acts chapter 17, right? We do see that from Acts chapter 17. So a lot of women came over into the walk while their husbands remain unbelievers. So Paul is still saying, hey, women, you're in this walk, your husband may not be. Go ahead and still do this. Why? Because you can win, you can help win or bring your husband over possibly into this walk by your behavior, your conduct. Because you understand the mission that you're on. You understand now that you have to what? Arrange yourself or deploy yourself or arrange yourself voluntarily in this combat form to go to battle by and with your husband. Does that make sense? What Paul is doing now? Paul is not a misogynist. Yod-Heh-Wah-Heh is not a misogynist. This is straight liberation. And I know some people are going to continue keeping their dogma or whatever conveniences them or their pet doctrine or whatever. I know. This is for the genuine truth seekers here. Right? So household members who converted to the way of Yahweh through Yeshua to the religion in opposition to the Roman deities that challenged the hierarchy and status caste system threatened influential men in the empire. Right? And Paul says in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 1, wives, hypotasso to your own husbands. And what do we say hypotasso mean? Hypotasso means submit. And in first century CE, what does submit mean? Again, to arrange or deploy yourself voluntarily in a form like a military to go to combat or battle by or with your husband, right? That's what you're doing to your husbands. Because if any obey not the word, they also may without the word be won by the conversation of the wives. So when the husbands see the purity and reverence of your lives, right, they possibly can come over into the walk, right? The hypotasso, or the first century CE definition, right, is not conforming to a divinely prescribed order, but a mission response for the kingdom of Yahweh they have now been adopted into. This is so that the women can win over their unbelieving husbands, right? In 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, because you see in the Roman colonial lands, guess what the husband did not have to do? The husband did not have to pretty much respect his wife. He can go commit adultery with these high-class courtesan prostitutes, right? This is why Paul says in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, it instructs the husbands to show consideration and honor to their wives. And what's absent from that instruction, right? What's absent from that is any instruction about husbands ruling over their wives. That's what the household codes of Caesar did. The household codes of Caesar, as we saw from Aristotle's Politics and Arius Didymus, showed that the husband, was supposed to what? Rule over his wife. Over in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7, there is no instruction for the man to rule over his wife. women being called the weaker vessel was that she was at a disadvantage in the Greco-Roman culture and vulnerable to abuse. Like I showed in the Lex Julia laws there. The husband was responsible for punishing his wife if she went outside the marriage, but he could legally go outside the marriage. Right? This is to undermine what you call subversive speech, right? This is to undermine any inclinations toward domination of wives through status. See, the Greeks and the Romans, they sought status. The opinions of how men ruled over women and how men ruled over other men was highly pertinent. I'm not pulling this stuff out the side of my neck here. I hope y'all seen this because I got sources and references for days. Right? I'm gonna show you some of the references I get this stuff to besides online. So no more being conformed to the Greco-Roman social order, especially of the obsession with status seeking when it goes against the Most High Yahweh's kingdom. Yahweh's kingdom is about other-centered love, not self-centered. It's not about I. It's about a collective. He said, my wife ruled that kitchen. That's funny. Hey, we all do better in some areas than others. You know what I mean? That's why Paul talks about gifts and talents, starting in 1 Corinthians 12, right? So that sums up the lesson. That sums up the lesson, y'all. I hope y'all were edified. All praise to the Most High. Ko Tehelim, Ko Kabo, Ahati Ferech, Le Yahweh Abinu Eloheinu. Hallelujah. Submission. It does not mean take orders from the man and just do whatever he say, hop on one leg and bark like a dog and don't ask no questions. It means to voluntarily what? Arrange or deploy yourselves, right? Like you're going to combat and battle with or for your husband or to one another. That's what it says in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 21, right? Deploy yourselves voluntarily. Arrange yourself in military combat form to go to battle by and with one another in the reverence of the Most High Yahweh through Yeshua the Christ. All right, Sister E, she go ahead. Come on in.
I just, just to get some conversation going, why do you think that particularly, so-called African American men really adopt this, I want to rule you. I'm supposed to be the head of you, but I want to get you into subjection. What do you think is so attractive for men to adopt this? It's almost like European misogyny on steroids.
I believe it comes from like the brothers over here, our brothers, right? Our brothers. When they are being brought up, like from the ages starting between like 5 and 6 and 7, what are they told? They're told to man up, be a man, don't cry, don't show emotions. You gotta control, rule, and dominate over everyone. That's what they are told, programmed to do starting at the ages of 5, 6, and 7. And us brothers, I mean, our brothers, right? Our brothers, they grow up and they're told to assert you're a man, to assert your masculinity, you have to have power, control, and dominance over everything. So they're trying to actually go out in the real world and be validated as men. So when the brothers go out into the real world and their oppressors, right? Their oppressors have taught them that they have to be assertive and be a man and man up and don't cry, don't show no emotions, and control and dominate and overpower and rule everything, right? You got to win and compete and win and everything, right? Well, they go out into the real world and the oppressor then told them they have to do all the stuff, and then the brothers realize, well, they don't have no power. They feel powerless out in the real world. I'm almost done, Sheikah. They feel powerless out in the real world. So what I believe is going on is that they still have to assert their manhood or their masculinity some way to validate that they are men. So what's the next best thing to have some power, control, and dominance over? Your women, your children, your own women and children. Because you go out in the real world, you feel powerless, right? And the men are probably like, I have to have some power somewhere. Where can I get this power and control over? Oh, the woman.
Yeah, which is,
That's my thought. But go ahead, she.
I agree. I think that is the pathology that we're looking at. Oppressed men oppress others. You're paying it forward. And the thing is that Queen Latifah, who also one of my favorite rappers, she did a whole song called UNITY, but the whole song was about men disrespecting women through domestic violence. Some dude pinched her on the butt, all types of stuff. So what is that really telling us? She's saying that we can't unite without respect and love for one another, and I think that is an issue, a growing issue that we see now. And then it's so crazy when we say share the power, share the decision making. Because let's be honest, the reason why you have a wife is to collaborate, to have somebody to bounce ideas off of. When you can't run the ball, that person should run the ball. Like this whole notion that a woman's accomplishment means nothing. To whom? Accomplishment feel like a woman's accomplishment is an asset, and so when you talk about leadership in the home, it should be ran off of the strengths of the individuals in the relationship, not due to genitalia, and so when we look at that, a lot of people are like, well, he can let you. Yeah, and the woman is also acquiescing when the male's in a leadership role. But that should go back and forth to who's the best person to run this for our team, our family. And that's not being promoted enough in this community.
Yeah, I do see in my marriage, Sheikah. I'd like to use myself as an example. We make final choices together. Uh, we make final choices together. There's nothing we don't both make final choices on. Um, my husband told me the years in our first meeting each other. He is a grown person and I'm a grown person. He said he did not want a docile wife. That's what he said. He said he did not want a docile wife. He wanted someone to match him, to bring to the table. That's what he wanted. When he's talking about our goals that we achieve, he's always thinking about the next move. And you know what he does? He's like, Shanti, what's the next move? So he's asking me the question. And guess what? He's like, let's come up with something. I go to him, hey, what's the next move? Let's come up with something. And his creative juices get to flowing. And then we come together as a collective. And that's what I've seen for the last 15 years. That's what I've seen for the last 15 years. A lot of people, ask what's his opinion on me doing what I'm doing. He's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. He even says that I'm going to start a congregation. I don't think so, but that's what he says. That's a lot of responsibility. I mean, I love sharing what the Most High allows me to come across. Right?
You and you
Go
know
ahead.
what?
Go ahead, Sister E.
My father is the same way. Um, he is, what you consider to be the head of the house. He'll sit and chill for a minute and 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 my mom will do certain things. She's very good at certain things that he's not good at. And I ask him something, he'd be like, go ask your mom. And I'll be like, go ask your mama.
Right.
But there were certain things that he could do that my mama would be like, don't, no, don't. I can't help you with that. Even when I was married, when I decided to be the work being the housewife, it was a conversation and it was a decision based on our situation. We had a newborn baby, which is now 19, um
Hallelujah.
newborn baby, and I was going to school and working, he was working, and it was like somebody got to. I think one day we came home and the house looked like a tornado had went through it, and I was in the middle of the floor crying because I was exhausted. Been staying up all morning, all night with her, studying, going to work. He said, "Something's gonna have to give, or you
Mm,
gonna have a breakdown, and then I'm." It was just horrible, and it was just a decision, and I
right.
didn't mind making that decision for the sake of my family.
Right. That's what we have to do. Right. And someone said in the chat, to each his own. Every marriage dynamic is different. Every marriage has to do what's best for them, as what works for them.
Yep, and
Every. Go ahead. Go ahead,
even
Sister.
with dating, Sister E dates so every so often.
Hey, that's how it get cracking, right?
I mean, I don't just sit at home twiddling my thumbs. No, I'm just joking. But I mean, even when dating comes up, or if I meet someone, I look for certain attributes, like you said, to say I can think for myself, but what are your thoughts as well? And when you take my thoughts into the conversation and think about it, okay, it makes sense, and we're good to go. But the moment you trample over my whatever I'm thinking, oh, we
Mhm.
we can't do this. And I mean, I've came across Hebrews that be, "What's up, Susie?" And I'd be like, "Hold on," and they'll say something, and I'd just be like, "Oh, this ain't gonna we no, no." But just, I mean, just in general, I just what I'm learning, that my dad has taught me this well. When you're looking for someone, look for someone that can add but not take away.
Absolutely.
So, but I mean, it's still something that we have to learn, especially if women are dating inside of the Hebrew. I think me and another guy are supposed to be doing a show together talking about being single and being believers and how to manage that. And that's one of the things that women have to look for and men have to look for. I love the fact that you said when you met your husband, he said he did not want a docile woman. I mean, that speaks volumes. But he said
Right.
he wants a woman that can think for herself, that can be able to make decisions for herself. So
Yep. Yep. And I mean, we have fun together. I'm having the time of my life. Uh, with him, it's so fun. What that last year, during the pandemic. This is how a situation came up during the pandemic. We shut down what March 2020, right?
mhm.
And April, I think it was the next month, we went out. I was like, let's get out the house. Let's go fishing. Now, I don't usually throw the pole in the water. He does. I just like being out there. I like to watch him fish. So we went to the bank of the river, and we got in a bummy location. And I saw these boats out there on the river, Sacramento River. And I was like, how do we get out there? That's what I said. I said, how do we get out there? And I talked to him. I was like, you want to get out there? He was like, yeah, Sean, that'll be cool. You know what I mean? I was like, well, what if I start searching around, for some used boats? I was like, he was like, okay, well, is this what we working with, as far as money wise? And I started searching, found the bummiest boat. And he called up his dad to go meet us to look at the boat. And my husband didn't want it at first. And my father-in-law, his dad, was like, "Oh, it's a good boat. You guys can fix it up. I'll help you. I'll help you do the engine. The rest of the other stuff is cosmetic." That's what he said. And we set out to do that project, that boat, and we fully restored together. We worked on that together. Just watch YouTubes, and then my husband and his dad were working on the engine. It's got a brand new engine in it now, but they worked on the engine. So yeah, that was fun. I mean, doing a project together, whew, you really have to. It takes a lot when you don't when you share a majority of things in common, but those little things that distinguish you from each other that you don't have in common, you do have to come to some sort of compromise, right? And it's very exciting to get to that, and it shows you, it teaches you about one another, and the positive possibilities are endless. So I hope this is liberating to anyone who's married or who wants to be married, or like Sister E said, who's dating. It's good while you're courting to vet, ask the pertinent, important questions.
Yep.
Talk about what's significant and important to you. Talk about the deal breakers, so to speak, right? Those things are on the table, but when you arrange yourself to go to battle with one another, you're teaming up in combat against the enemy. And in marriage, you do have a lot of enemies. The first is your extended family, right?
Well, I lost that first battle. That one right there. That first battle, that shit was fast. That was the culprit of the problem.
you, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And you gonna have to collaborate on a whole bunch. But once you do, you have the Most High Yahweh. When you're centered, you're always considerate of one another. And when you work with one another, you have that harmonious balance. You come
Yep.
together and you create, and the Most High is solidified as the king on the throne when you're working together like that. So that's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. I don't want you to run y'all ear off too much. I could sit here and talk about me and my husband for another week or a month or so. You know what I mean? I can do that. But I really hope this was liberating, edifying, entertaining, right? Entertaining. This might not be the drama mess that Israel flocks to, you know.
It was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But
I
I hope now that people are more comfortable with the first century CE submit. So now you know, if people from the camp, or if people with this pet doctrine, how you've heard them use the word submit. Now you know.
That's not. Yep.
Now you know. And now that you know, you don't necessarily have to go and pick fights. You could just stand firm in what you know. Stand still and know,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you're good. Praise the Most High Yahweh.
I've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed it. Shika, do you have anything? I've enjoyed it. And I'm gonna give everybody, y'all got 5 minutes for any questions. Okay, so put question and then put like question and then colon and then put your question there if you have a question in the chat. This has really been a good conversation. Uh,
Yeah, Sister E.
I've
Yeah.
enjoyed this because we've put an understanding to what does it mean to be submissive and what does submission mean. And submission is something like, I mean, it's almost submitting to one another. And when you say that, people be like, what? But I mean, submission, yeah, submission is something that it's a gift and not something that you can just take. And even being
Hmm.
submissive is not what they say it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you want me to be submissive, but still want to make sure my checking account is I got money in their checking account. No, if I'm submissive, then the way you want me to be submissive, that means I don't need to work at all. That trips me out. I'm also gonna do a panel on talking about polygamy. These folks that want to do polygamy, uh, there's some rules to that. You want them to work, but still you got to take care of them. I don't believe in polygamy. I don't think it's biblical. But the ones that do believe in it, we're gonna have a long. I'm trying to find some polygamists. I want to bring one up here, and I want ones that don't believe in polygamy, and we have a discussion about that. But but again, it goes into that male chauvinistic mindset that some of them have. So,
Hmm.
but I've enjoyed this. Any questions, family? Somebody said, please read Ezekiel 20. Is that a question?
That's a long passage right there.
No. Somebody said my wife is a full-time Amazon shopper.
Yeti brother live is funny. Hey,
Yes.
hey, I like it, brother Yeti.
Brother Yeti is hilarious.
We'll tell her, hey, some of us have to curb our obsessions and addictions.
Yeah, I have to take a break. You know what? I gotta take a little break and hiatus from shopping because I'm going to
Man,
New York for my birthday, and it's like, do you want to go shopping or do you want to save?
right? Because you want to go shopping when you get there, right?
Correct. So yes, I will be in New York on November, people. I'm supposed to be. Yeah, I'll be in New York. I just hate that
um,
I
go ahead, go ahead.
hate my brother lived 8 hours from New York. I thought Zayden
Oh,
lived close. My bro, he lived 8 hours from New
8 hours. Oh, Buffalo, yeah. Okay, far apart. Yeah. Um, we'll have to look at the context of Ezekiel 23 another day, but a lot of the prophets speak in metaphor. Um,
York.
metaphor. When you have Israel going astray, which is you're actually paying more homage and honor to an outside deity than the one you were in covenant with, which is Yahweh. Yahweh has a problem with that. That's mainly what Ezekiel 23 is about. A covenant is an agreement and the agreement has stipulations. So when you a covenant is agreement stipulations. It's like a marriage contract, right? So um, the covenant, starting in Exodus 20, is a marriage contract, right? So we're the bride, the Most High Yahweh, the groom, right? And we said we were going to actually show the honor and homage to Yohe Wahe, right? As the deity. And if we broke that, then there would be consequences, right? So going outside of that covenant and paying honor and homage to another deity, like that's the deity you promised and to give your loyalty to, that's idolatry. And idolatry is also a form of what? Adultery. Because like I said, the covenant is looked at as a marriage. So adultery is looked at as idolatry. Adultery is looked at as idolatry. You're straying. So I believe that's the gist of Ezekiel 23. Without going too much in it, press for time a little bit. So
Can I just also say that we also get caught in the terminology when it says, "Oh, see, Sarah called Abraham, uh, her Lord," and um, so and so said Master. Okay, so these are respectful. This is a translation. These are respectful terms. This is why when you watch a movie about monarchy, everybody's addressing the king as my lord, and some would say master. Mister actually is derived from master. Okay, this is not some like replacement of the Most High in your life. It is actually just a respectable term that they therefore translated into text. We need to stop with this. See, I'm your master and I'm your lord. I mean, men are actually saying this online. Stop it. It is just ridiculous. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that out because they'll use those terms as a reason of why they are due respect due to their gender, and it's just like, no, it doesn't work like that.
Right. Sarah did not directly say Abraham, Adonai, Abraham, Adonai. She did not call him Adonai. She said he was Adonai, my husband. She wasn't directly talking to him. She was just saying, "Oh," she says, my Lord being old too." What was it when the messengers came, right? And told her she was going to bear a child, and she was
Mhm.
like, "Well, how am I able to do this? I'm past my years, and how is it that my husband's going to be able to, like." So she's talking to the messenger when she says, "Oh, my husband being old too." So she referred, that's when she said Adoni. So she did not directly say Abraham, Adoni, Abraham, my Lord. She did not directly say that to him. So it's like it's definitely a thing to go back to elementary school and even junior high and high school and get reading comprehension down. A lot of people actually have thrown in the toilet or the trash reading comprehension.
Well,
You
they're going
know,
from what Paul said though, because Paul said that even Sarah called Abraham his master. Master what verse?
well, that's in Peter, right? Peter. She called him what he was. He was her husband. See, reading comprehension. Like Shika. If I'm directly talking to you, I would say, Shika, go get the trash. Right? Shika, go get the trash. I'm talking directly to Shika, right? Or if BA was here and I said, Shika, I told BA to go get the trash. There's a difference between me saying, Shika, go get the trash. That's directly talking to you, asking you to do something, rather than me talking to BA and saying, BA, BA, I'm talking to BA now. Like I told Shika to go get the trash. People don't know how to distinguish that. Those are elementary, junior high, high school um, fundamentals, if you will. A lot of us have thrown that in the trash and or flushed it down the toilet. It's time to revisit reading comprehension. When somebody's directly being told to do something versus me talking to somebody else, telling somebody else what I asked somebody, what I told another or asked another person to do. No, it's Sarah said what she was. Like, how many times did I say it tonight? My husband.
Right.
When I talk to him, I call him Torch. I don't say Adoni. I say Torch. That's his rap name, right? I say Torch. When I'm talking to Sister E or to you, Sister Shika, I'm like, hey, I told my husband that I was going to do this live tonight. There's a difference between me talking to you, Shika, and Sister E saying my husband, Adoni, was told I'm going to do this live tonight, rather than, hey, Torch, Adoni. Sarah did not say, hey, Abraham, Adoni. That's not what she did. And so I think, I don't know.
Uh,
Prayerfully, people get it together. That's what I'm
yeah.
going to say.
Let's address Frank Hudson. He said feminists won't make it in the kingdom. I told you somebody was going to break out the F word. But okay,
How does
first of
he know
all,
he's going to make it in the kingdom? I mean, I don't pay attention to stuff like that, Shika. But you go ahead and
let,
address it if you want to.
let, let me address it though. The feminism comes up because there's an oppression on women, which is called misogyny. There's the practice of misogyny, and then it creates the response of feminism. Okay, because now somebody's trying to take something from me that I feel that I deserve, and so now I'm in a fight. So that's where it comes out. If we don't have misogyny, then you don't have to worry about feminism. Okay, that's just it right there. The same way that we have to fight for our rights due to color is the same reason why there has to be some fight for due to gender, because there's a misconception and misinterpretation as was demonstrated tonight. So just wanted to put that out there. And if we talk about the expansion of women's rights, we've seen that happen in in Torah, where women's rights were expanded. Um, I can't remember the name of the guy, but he died and he only had daughters. And the rule at the time was that it would the property had to pass through males. Well, he only had daughters, and so that rule was amended to include he only had daughters, then the daughters are going to get it. That was not the case before. So if you're mad at expanding rights for women, start getting mad at that Torah too, because that's where it first happened. Okay.
That's right.
Who is
That
it?
is right. That is right.
Yeah, who is this? Well, I'm not gonna focus because I know. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it alone. But because it's been fairly nice in the chat, this one must have slipped in. Yeah. Uh,
Hey, like when people result to throwing ad hominems,
correct.
we already know what that's about.
Because he
So
recut. I
I
mean,
don't even. Hey, there was a famous line by a rapper named Two Sticks from my area. He said, "I ain't got time to be wasting no time."
yep.
I love that line. Hey, I ain't got time to be wasting no time. That's my response. People, some of them people like that. I move on. Go ahead.
I'm laughing at ShanT. I'm looking at her laugh. She is rolling right now because she's like, I ain't got no time for it. I'm too sleepy to even fight with anybody. They gonna win anyway. I'm like, okay, no,
I heard that. I heard that.
no, I ain't that sleepy. I'm just joking. But yeah, some people are just they don't understand what it means to, and I'm not gonna say that person, but they just don't. I mean, they don't understand what it means to be in a marriage where you working together as a team. I grew up saying
Mm,
team, even though my parents were a team. My dad was still considered, like I said, the head of the house, and he did the things that a man was, he was supposed to do. But they did things together as well. It was decisions that were made together. Um, it was decisions made that my dad made. My dad was like, "Look, this is how I think it should be, and this is how it's gonna be." There were moments like that, but because they had such a good partnership, that when my dad did things like that, my mom would understand his point and then be like, "I'm gonna leave this one alone. I'm gonna fight another day." But there were days where my mom would be like, "This is what it is." And it wasn't a thing of I'm gonna make this, but my mom, there were some places where my dad would say she's better at than I am. And he wasn't intimidated nor insecure about it. My dad was a better cook than my mom. My dad is a better cook than my mother. And
mm,
I mean, not to say my mama can't cook. My mama can cook. But my dad he was the head, but he was a nurturer. He had a nurture because he had like 10 siblings and he was the oldest and his father had died. And he had to take care of them. So he knew how to take care of children. And it was not just boys, but girls too. So because of that, he has a nature about him where he knows how to clean up, knows how to cook. He knows how to. My dad's could. I mean, he knew how to take care of baby better than my mama sometimes. But it didn't take anything away from his manhood. He was a man 110%. But he knew how to get up, make sure. Let me go in here and make sure these kids got breakfast. Like during the summer, because my dad worked for the school system when I was a kid. So during the summer, he at home with us, and my mom worked, a traditional job. So guess what? He wake up, I'm cooking breakfast, and half the neighborhood would be in the house. because they knew my dad was cooking breakfast. And it would be 20 kids
Mm,
in line, but he would cook
mm,
every single one of them. And
mm.
he knew it. They came to the house at 7 o'clock and he had pancakes and all the good stuff. But it never took away from it never takes away from his manhood at all.
That's right.
So
It actually solidifies the manhood.
yep, yep, yep. Can clean up a house better than my mama. Can clean.
Solidifies the manhood. I mean, this is we're taking care of one another. We're working and serving one another.
Yep,
Look,
yep.
didn't Yeshua say, "I came to serve, not to be served"? He said the nations want to lord and rule over. That's not to be so among you. You
Hmm.
had Yeshua in the servant role washing his disciples' feet. How many men would get intimidated and have their manhood questioned if they wash their homeboy feet? How many men gonna wash their homeboy feet?
Correct, correct.
He said, I didn't come to be served, I came to serve.
Yep.
Where that mindset at?
Yeah. It's, there's some folks that's gonna get in some trouble with the Savior. That's all I got to say.
Mm, yep.
And then
Go ahead, Shika. Sorry.
we have some men teaching that a woman can only get to the Most High through a man. Um, I'm like, what are you talking? So I mean, a prophet is only a prophet's wife. These doctrines is funny how the doctrines that come up seek to diminish the role of the woman or her value, whereas the Tanakh does the opposite, where it says the wife is the crown of her husband. A virtuous woman's worth is far above rubies. I mean, First Peter 3:7 tells you that if you deal with the woman deceitfully, the Most High will not even hear your prayers. So even the way that you interact with women and children can affect your outcome, which I think we're seeing now, as collective, not individually, but collectively, when we look at the totem pole and where our men are at, they'll tell you society likes our women more than us, and there's a target on our back and things like that. But dealing in righteousness with your women and with your children can result into blessings and coming over the conqueror, the oppressor, the conqueror, whoever you want to call, because your prayers are now fully heard. Your prayers have a direct line to the Most High because you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I just wish that the collective would come together and understand that if we do what we're supposed to do, then He has to do what He said He's going to do. And we're not getting there by diminishing the role and value of women.
Correct. If you do that, you're shutting off half of the Holy Spirit. You shutting off Yahweh. You shutting off
Correct,
half of the Creator.
correct, correct.
You and I
Uh,
see why.
Go ahead, Shika.
You
Oh,
and I
okay.
see why. Going back to Queen Latifah,
Oh, Queen
that's
Latifah.
that's
Right.
what you're saying.
That's right.
Watch the video now with that understanding. You'll see it.
That's right. Hey, Orthodox more. Hey, I appreciate you. You know what I'm saying. So I watch the people speak. That's a true servant, humble.
Yep.
The one who's humble, the one who humbles themselves will be, raised up, right? The ones who actually elevate themselves, they're going to be humble. And a yeah, he said he ain't washing his boys' hammer toes. Hey, see,
It's hilarious. He's like, keep your feet.
hey, see, we gotta really see and examine ourselves if we're actually ready for this walk.
Yep. Right.
We gotta count the cost. Count the cost, like Yeshua said.
I
Right?
went to Passover where we washed each other's feet.
Watch the
It was
yeah.
yeah, it was the women on one side and the men on the other. So I mean, it is a humbling experience, but this is how you submit yourself to believers, as believers to one another.
Exactly.
That's a good part of it.
I would
Exactly.
I would have messed that whole service up because I have a thing about feet. I'd be like, what? I'd be like, I'm gonna go home now. No, I'm just joking, but I do.
No, it's really beautiful, but it's like okay, but it's
I'm just joking. I'm just joking. That is a wonderful sentiment.
Hey, hey, right?
I just
Hey.
when she said wash feet, my hands instantly clenched. I was like,
And we don't want to talk about that part. We don't want to talk about that text, right? For the most part, we don't like to talk
no
about
problem
washing.
about that. I don't have a problem. It's just my phobia of feet would have to go out the window. I know it.
Oh, oh, man. I am cracking up with these comments though.
What are they? Are they cutting up?
Oh no, I'll be cut down too. Hey, if y'all was here in Sacramento, I had me a good time. Sister
Oh,
Eve was watching one of my live videos when I was at my people's house because my boy died. My boy passed away. I'm gonna tell you who it is, but we were over there just having a good time. Y'all know that song? This song's dedicated to my homie
yep.
and that gangster lean. All right. So that is a man named Tracy Carter. He is from here, Sacramento. His brother passed away.
Oh wow.
So they were big here in Sacramento. That's who I started doing music with when I came back to Sacramento when I was 19 years old. So I was doing rapping, they took me in their wings and the other brother Lance was producing, Tracy was producing, he produced that song. And then Terrell, the one who passed away, he was the singing. So that's the one I was doing music with when I was 19 years old. When I came back from school,
Mm. Oh
and we
wow.
were we were just having fun. But we have fun like that like all the time. We just go to the studio. We go to the studio. Sometimes we're not doing music. Sometimes we're just doing what you saw, just hanging out. And sometimes actually music comes from there. Sometimes music comes from hanging out. That's how music would come about at times. A lot of hanging out. So I would go to work. I would go to the club, and if I wasn't at the club, I was at the studio and or church, and that's how my life was. But their mother was in the community choir with my mother, rest in peace. So and now my auntie, like I said, she's the chapter representative for the community choir and the North chapter for California for the GMWA. So yeah, so their mother, my mother and aunties, grew up in church together. So we grew up in church together, right? Separate churches at times and did music together. But y'all come to Sac, I'm always having a good time. If I'm not hanging out with my friends, I'm in this word. If I'm not in this word, I'm with my husband. I I kick it. I kick it.
And well, I will be coming out there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
As soon as possible. Cause
Well,
I gotta check out. I've never been to California before, so that'll be my first time. It'll be
oh
my first
yeah.
time whenever I
You would
come.
love it. You would love it. We would go to well, I'm in the valley, but we could drive to the Bay or we could drive to LA,
Oh
you
wow.
know?
Cool. Cool. Well, I will be out there. I'm gonna try in 20. Well, I know in 2022 I will. In fact, I was getting ready to go one year and I couldn't go because of it was the fires and people was like, "Are you going out there right now?" And I had to reschedule the whole trip. No, it wasn't a fire. It's my daughter had started school too early. She started a new school, so I couldn't go. That's what happened.
Oh, okay,
But
okay.
yeah, let me see. So let's see. I've enjoyed this, y'all. Y'all got any questions? Anybody? This is funny. This is me. Like,
Yeah, and folks is like, don't touch my bunions. Don't touch my bunions. Don't touch it.
I ain't not just my feet. It's about other people's feet. Like, oh,
Oh man, Eric said California is under judgment. Be safe. Hey, hey, I'm gonna say this. Excuse me for saying this, Sister E, but I got to.
don't say it. Don't say
You
it.
know, I'm damned if I do and damned if I don't. I'm just living. I'm just living, and I pray to the Most High Yahweh. I'll make it in the kingdom. You know what I mean? But I'll say this: from some of the self-righteous folk who condemning me and everybody else, I'd rather go to the lake than not to be in the kingdom with them if they go into the kingdom.
Mhm.
I mean that. I mean that. Yada I mean yada yada yeti. Then you got to do it like that now. You got to say ya mean, or yada yada. You know, I am definitely West Coast. Don't test the West Coast now. I'm definitely West Coast.
I got to swing on through West Coast. I got to come through. I got to.
Right, right.
Oh, he said this is what he was saying. Eric is cool.
Oh, the wicked is under judgment. Oh well, there's wickedness everywhere,
That's everywhere.
and yeah, the Most High is definitely separating the wheat from the tares. I am definitely praying for some rain this way. California definitely does need some rain. Our
Oh,
lakes
wow.
are starving. Our lakes are starving. So yeah, I'm definitely praying for some rain. I'm like, rain, come on down. We need consistent weeks of it.
Man, the South been getting a lot of rain, so where y'all not getting it, the South is definitely getting it. Cause we not getting a lot of rain over here either. It's like it'll start and then stop.
Mm,
But it's starting to get cold though. I know that much. I went in and take my dog outside, came right back in the house. It is 50 degrees outside and gonna be
man,
45 tomorrow night. So, well, Saints, does anybody have anything? Because Sister E getting ready to go to bed. This has been a long week for me. So,
yeah.
everybody quiet.
If when you get ready to close fully, sis, I'll definitely would like to do
Yes,
the Aaronic priestly blessing. So
please
yeah,
do.
when you get.
Please do. Please do. That's what I was going to ask you too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
okay. All right. Well, come on and do the priestly prayer. I'm ready.
All right, so I do want to say, Kol Tehelim, Kol Kabo, Wahati Fedes, Yahweh Abinu Eloheinu, Shakom Lachol, Mishpacha, Wahabrin, Lalato. Thank you, Sister E, again, for allowing me to come on your channel and do this teaching. Been sitting on it for a while and we finally got to it. Thank you, Sister Sheik, for coming on, adding your commentary. I had an amazing time. This was very fun. Um, I geek out over this stuff. I want to say I love y'all. I love y'all with the love of the Most High.
Yes.
Continue to seek with your whole heart. Continue to persevere and press in your personal relationship with the Most High Yahweh through the Son Yeshua for those who believe in Yeshua. Right? Just continue to love on one another. Continue to see your peoples as much as you can. Show them you love them as much as you can. I've seen so much death in the past, um, couple of weeks. Even tomorrow, I have to actually. I hate to say it. I'm not gonna say it, but I have to say goodbye. I'll say it this way: I have to say goodbye to my 12-year-old dog tomorrow. So just love on one another. Let's try not to actually major in the minors over our small differences. However, let's come together and unify and build on what we more so have in common. All right. So with that being said, the priestly Aaronic blessing, Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yabrecha Yahweh berishmereka. Ya'er Yahweh panav elecha wihuneka. Yisa Yahweh panav elecha vayasem lacha shalom. That is, may Yahweh bless you and keep you. May Yahweh make his face shine on you and show you favor. May Yahweh lift up his face towards you. That means may Yahweh accept you. And may Yahweh grant you peace, wellness, wholeness. All right.
Amen. All right, family. Y'all have an amazing day tomorrow. Get you some rest tonight. Shanti, thank you so much for coming on. Shika, thank you. Do you have any information you want to give out to anyone, either one of you, like your sites or your YouTubes? I forgot to say that.
I'll say my YouTube is 916 Shan 916 SHAN. And also the email, Sister E had put it up before, duckandodge1 at gmail.com, DUCCNDODGE1 at gmail.com. So, yep, that's where I could be reached at.
All right. What about you, Shika?
Um, I'm Shika Atiba on Facebook. Rebel Nation is my group, and also my YouTube. I have a YouTube out with the basics, the very very basics, which I enjoy doing. So watch that when you get a chance. And I just want to say, death to doormat doctrine. Death to doormat doctrine. We have to stop letting this doctrine hurt the women in our community. It's very hard for us to even keep quality women in our community because they walk in and they feel like they have to be a doormat, and that's not what the Most High is conveying or saying. Please do the work and find out the truth. Okay, shalom. Thank you for having me, Sister E.
You're welcome,
Thank
Shika.
you, Shanti, too, for including me.
Hadn't heard your voice in a long time, so that was good. I enjoyed that. So, all right, family. Well, thank y'all for joining us. Like I said, subscribe to the pages. Everybody who's giving their page, go subscribe to it. Thank you so much for supporting. Keep supporting us, and this will not be the last time you will see Shanti or Shika. We may do a women's panel, and I'll see if I can get Only Love up here as well, and we can all do something together. And talking about again women in the Bible. People need to understand the importance of the woman's presence in the Bible. So y'all have a good evening, and thank y'all for supporting us. Good night.